In 10 years, the Eastern Kingdom Federation is destined to crumble in a massive war. To stop this catastrophe, our guy has to step up and become a patron. But honestly, he never expected things to spiral this wildly out of control. Back in his old life, he was a corporate slave grinding 78 hours a week. That was until he suddenly woke up inside a wealthy noble from his favorite fantasy game. Honestly, he considered this a massive upgrade. Sure, he was completely illiterate here and had zero magical powers, but butlers literally hand-fed him every single meal. They even bathed him before bed. This useless, spoiled young master of an earl's family was living the absolute dream. Compared to his miserable corporate past, this setup was absolute heaven. But then, his maid warns him that the other young masters are returning tomorrow, so he should sleep early. The maid notices he seems totally clueless about his own family. Still, that name she mentioned, Palladio, rings a massive bell. He dunks his head under the bathwater, trying to clear his mind, when it suddenly hits him like a psychedelic trip. Psychedelia was the brutal, turn-based game he used to play. No matter which route you chose, 5 massive disasters always appeared: wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession. Once these entities showed up, the entire kingdom was doomed to rot, and his new family, the Palladios, were the worst of the bunch. The eldest brother, Leo, was the king of prostitution, while the second, Tonio, was a literal drug lord. Dealing with this house of troublemakers was just a minor early-game side quest. In the game, players had to investigate the kingdom of Asteria through this exact family. The Palladios were deeply entangled in human trafficking, narcotics, and a shadowy organization called Avalon. Just playing this quest back in the day gave him actual chills, especially since this family is destined to be slaughtered first when the 5 great sins arise. And his new identity, the third son, Alan Palladio, is just a minor extra villain destined for a brutal end. Suddenly, grinding 78 hours a week at his miserable office job sounds like a dream compared to this death sentence. What good is a decade of luxury if you end up brutally murdered at the end of it? That is way worse than 6 months of unpaid wages. Tragically, he possessed a complete loser with zero magic. Still, knowing the future gives him a massive, profit-like advantage. By using his future knowledge, he can stop the triggers of the world's end. He decides to reform the 5 great sins early, securing a peaceful, lazy life for himself. Fortunately, those future monsters are still harmless children right now, which makes things pretty interesting. 2 months later, his men rescue several test subjects from a horrific human experimentation lab, putting a mysterious girl named Utia in charge of the orphans. Standing beside him is Evan, his loyal personal knight. Alan smugly claims he has a special knack for reading people's hidden talents. Evan cannot tell if his master is joking, but Alan simply nods, demanding they start working together immediately. The knight is deeply confused by his master's sudden change. The old Alan wore his emotions on his sleeve, but this new soul has left his face completely cold, calm, and hard to read. In the game, Evan is a rare find, stubbornly loyal, even in a world of betrayal. He is currently looking closely at the orphan girl, Utia. Even with his experience as a hardened mercenary, he can tell this kid is far from normal. She possesses a frightening level of power, and keeping her caged serves absolutely no purpose. Evan suggests bringing her directly to the mansion instead of leaving her locked up, but Alan has a much bigger plan than just ignoring or exploiting her. See, Utia is actually a non-human entity who made a dark pact with otherworldly gods to obtain unfathomable magical power. In the original timeline, she is destined to become the sin of wrath, slaughtering hundreds of thousands without mercy. But if she grows up surrounded by peace and love, she will never transform into that monster. He is going to defuse this ticking time bomb by letting her live a normal life. For now, Alan gives Evan a vague excuse, claiming the time is not yet right to release her. He orders his knight to keep this entire operation completely secret while quietly funneling massive funds into the local orphanage. He hands over a written letter for Evan to deliver to Utia, hoping to calm her down. The poor girl has been through hell, and she desperately needs some reassurance. Evan heads down to the dark cell to hand over this supposed letter of comfort, totally unaware of its real contents. The true purpose of the message is a highly specific phrase Alan saw dozens of times in the game, a psychological trigger that makes non-humans completely loyal to you. In the original game, an archbishop tried to suppress the sin of wrath by chanting a sacred prayer about the agony of darkness and the fall of light. By the time they tried to calm her back then, it was already far too late, leading to a bloodbath the moment the ritual failed. But this time around, she is still a vulnerable, innocent child. He can actually save her. With that handled, he prepares for the next crisis, confident his gaming knowledge will let him tame a literal monster. He figures the trick will work because every crazy entity in this world worships some outer god. Honestly, trying to understand how these future sins think is impossible because they are total lunatics. But get this, when Evan steps into the cell, He is hit by a heavy, chilling aura of raw, emotionless magic. She asks if Alan sent this letter. Her aura flares up in anger as she demands to know why he refuses to keep her right by his side. Evan stands completely frozen, utterly shocked by the terrifying amount of mana a mere child is outputting, a level only master-tier mages should possess. He quickly repeats Alan's words, explaining that the time is not yet right. Instantly, she calms down, whispering that this is a secret promise only she and her master understand. She nods quietly, claiming she understands the deeper meaning behind his words. This terrifying little girl is Utia, the future sin of wrath, the daughter of monsters, and the Blood Queen. Meanwhile, our lazy hero is tucked in bed, dreaming of his cozy, luxurious life. After a solid night of sleep, Alan wakes up and starts searching his room for something he misplaced. Just then, his knight arrives to report some great news: they successfully rescued the second child he requested. The knight confirms the kid is being treated with the utmost care after being pulled from the illegal slave market. Suddenly, the door is kicked wide open. It is Tonio Palladio, the second brother, demanding to know why an illiterate loser is holding a book. The obnoxious brother keeps shouting, demanding an answer. Alan wonders how the original body ever tolerated this constant bullying. He desperately wants to punch him in the face, but wisely holds back his rage. Acting like a coward, Alan drops to his knees, offering to leave the library entirely to his brother. Suddenly, a sharp knife flies right past his face as a voice complains about the annoying noise. The eldest brother, Leo Palladio, steps in, sneering that he does not want to see anyone's blood spilled this early in the morning. He snaps that Tonio stinks of cheap drugs and needs to get out, sparking an aggressive shouting match between the two. In the game, the Palladio house fell incredibly fast, but their raw power is much greater than Alan expected. Currently, these two toxic brothers are locked in a vicious war to become the next family head. We have the future king of the underworld's red light district fighting the ultimate drug lord of the cartel, and they are tearing each other apart. For the sake of his own survival, Alan knows he cannot get on their bad side. He quickly crawls out of the library with his one-eyed knight, fully resolved to keep playing the role of the useless, harmless younger brother. As they escape the library, the loyal knight quietly remarks that the second brother is clearly unhinged. However, the knight is secretly wondering how on earth Alan discovered a highly classified slave market and human experiments running in another territory. It looks like his young master has been secretly preparing a massive master plan behind the scenes, showing a brilliant, peculiar side before sending that rescued child straight to the orphanage. Alan overhears the knight's concerns and knows he is absolutely right. That kid is a walking natural disaster. Within the vast United Territory, the central nation of the Kalian Kingdom is about to face a nightmare. The kid they just rescued from the slave market is the second final boss of the game, Makalon. After suffering endless abuse and being sold like cattle, he eventually becomes the devastating sin of sloth. Once awakened, he wiped out entire kingdoms in the most brutal, stomach-churning ways possible. This specific storyline was so dark that it actually shocked thousands of gamers back in his world. Ironically, despite his title as Sloth, this guy works overtime to make his enemies suffer horribly. This is why Alan strictly ordered his men to shower the kid with absolute kindness, ensuring he returns the favor in the future. His exact plan for sending him to the orphanage remains a secret for now. Soon, he sends another quick message to Utia, explaining the situation and asking her to personally nurse the traumatized, sick little boy back to health. Utia finds the young boy and sighs, noting that he looks completely broken and covered in scars. She instantly recognizes the sickening work of the Black Goat. And just like that, the Great Moon chose him anyway, earning him congratulations from the girl. She urged him to embrace this newly granted power and unleash his true potential. As long as he stayed loyal and followed orders, his sweet revenge was practically guaranteed. With a polite bow, the girl sent her reply. Just as Alan began hunting for the third child, his knight Evan rushed in. The second young master of the Palladio family had suddenly passed away. Talk about an early plot twist. Alan definitely did not expect this death so soon, but off to the funeral they went. He knew this family was highly dysfunctional, fitting this dark fantasy world perfectly. Besides, Tonio dying from a random fall was a massive detour from the game storyline. It was actually his brother Leo who took him out to secure the title of Palladio heir. The guy currently looked pretty smug, though not exactly for the murder. Either Leo or his loyal followers had dealt with the older brother. In any case, Alan had much bigger problems to solve first. A year flew by, and with the succession war settled, Leo took charge of the cartel. The region became peaceful, and Alan and Utia became pen pals, writing back and forth constantly. Reading those letters, Alan thought they seemed like normal, sweet kids just talking about typical childhood things. Meanwhile, the sponsor list grew as more wealthy patrons kept contributing to their small orphanage. Soon, Evan got a tip from an information guild about a new clue. Alon felt relieved it had to be records about their ancestors and the third boss. Everything was going perfectly this morning until chaos erupted in Marigogo's drug den. The eldest Palladio heir was seen as pretty generous since his syndicate had hundreds of members. That is, until two mysterious intruders started wiping them out one by one. A terrifying spell forced these thugs to end their own lives. Someone was controlling them with dark puppet magic, and a white-haired girl assisted in the carnage. The boy claimed he had no reason to slaughter them, prompting her to ask if he felt pity. He scoffed they ruined lives to make drugs, so this had nothing to do with his revenge. This is just the foundation to build a space for him, the girl said, suggesting they leave the mess for his arrival. After all, they were just executing a much grander will. The indigo moon will be his sword, she chanted, leaving a crescent mark on the ground after the crime. After 2 years of writing to Utia, a totally exhausted Evan arrived with big news. The 5th child had finally been sent to the orphanage. Over those 2 years, Alon rescued the remaining sins. He only had real trouble tracking down Greed, the elusive 3rd child. But combining his game knowledge with Evan's legwork worked perfectly. Alon told him to rest, and when Evan asked if he was happy, Alon said yes and tried to smile, though he completely failed. He never expected things to go this smoothly. In the game, the 5 sins were born from utter tragedy, and saving them before they suffered those horrific traumas seemed like a 1 in a million shot. He had worried about picking up the pieces after they were already broken. Yet at the orphanage, these kids went from looking like lifeless dolls to being totally bright and full of energy. Alon realized they didn't even need to hire individual caretakers anymore. He never expected Utia to do such an incredible job, considering her dark role as the emotional anchor of the orphanage. Utia was surprisingly good at this. Her letters insisted everything was perfect and that he shouldn't worry about a single thing, not even the other kids. Alon was glad they were growing up in a safe environment. Evan suggested he finally go meet them since that was the plan, but honestly, Alon had no real intention of doing so. Getting close to them sounded nice, but their future villain personalities were not exactly his cup of tea. Still, saving them from the brutal events that turned them into monsters was definitely a win. Still, he worried about how they would turn out in 5 years. He desperately needed solid magic skills to survive this brutal fantasy world. Since his body was surprisingly perfect for magic despite his lack of raw talent, Alon began practicing some basic spells. As he trained, Evan mentioned a mysterious group called the Blue Moon, famous for ruthlessly hunting down high-profile criminals. Alon thought it was great that someone was cleaning up the world's scum, especially since he had never heard of them before. When Evan mentioned they even assassinated corrupt nobles, Alon panicked. Terrified, he ordered the knight to sleep right outside his bedroom door. Meanwhile, the red-eyed Utia demanded to hear their weekly report. A blonde girl stepped up to report, calmly explaining how she decapitated slave traders in the north. This was Silron, the sin of pride, while Renee, the sin of greed, added that the bodies were charred to ashes. Another sin announced their southern mission was complete, shutting down illegal human testing labs and grinding the troublesome Diavolon into a bloody pulp. Meet the sin of obsession. Utia, the red-eyed leader, declared that everything was going exactly according to the grand design. They all agreed they existed solely to serve the Great Blue Moon, the secret organization lurking in the shadows. However, a brand new problem had just appeared, threatening their otherwise perfect plans. The Sin of Obsession reported that the head of Avalon was actually Leo, the Count's eldest son. He had intercepted a dangerous letter in the south revealing that Leo was targeting Alon, planning to poison him as soon as the Count died. Utia nodded in understanding. 2 years later, the Count passed away. The public was told it was heart failure, but it was actually a reckless drug overdose. Rumors spread about another brutal attack under the Blue Moon. Alon realized that everyone was now highly alert to this secret group. With the Count dead and unmourned, the peaceful silence was officially over. When the servants asked what Alon planned to do, he casually muttered that his older brother Leo would handle things. Secretly, Alon had already packed his bags and ordered his knight, Evan, to escape with him. He announced they were heading south to Rodmill, a quiet, peaceful town. But as they prepared to depart, his brother Leo kept a very close, suspicious eye on them. 3 days later, Alon had to return for his brother's funeral. He wondered why Leo met such a different end compared to their father, until he discovered he was stabbed right through the heart. Wondering who could commit such a crime, Alon questioned the startled guards. Evan whispered that some mysterious force had completely wiped out the Avalon Syndicate overnight, and Alon noticed the entire mansion staff acting incredibly suspicious. Inside the carriage, as they finally headed to Rodmill, Evan asked the young master if they shouldn't go to a larger, safer city instead. Alon flatly refused. Rodmill was the perfect safe haven to raise the future sins properly and stop the world's destruction. Best of all, it had absolutely nothing to do with the main story, keeping them far from the plot. It was the ultimate peaceful getaway for a lazy noble. Alon claimed everything happened for a reason. But Evan knew his master only spouted such deep philosophy when he was incredibly bored. As the carriage rolled by, someone watched Alon from a high balcony, debating whether or not to assassinate him. Honestly, his survival didn't matter, though the original plan was to poison him after the Count died. Since Alon was leaving quietly, there was no real reason to kill him. The Watcher assumed Alon retreated to this village only because things with the Avalon Syndicate had gone south. Still, Alon's presence highly irritated the man. He ordered his loyal minion, Almond, to tail the carriage. Almond, who used to work for Leo, questioned if he should just eliminate the boy right then. Leo found it strange, since Almond had never questioned an order before, telling him to just do his job. But before Leo could react, his trusted minion suddenly slashed him across the chest, brutally betraying him. In reality, this was Rhydon, a deadly member of the Blue Moon organization who had just struck down young Master Leo. These zealots truly believed they were guided by the sacred moon. As a loyal agent of the Blue Moon, he was his master's ultimate sword, acting purely on his devotion. Rhydon declared that anyone threatening their great leader must be immediately erased, which is why he had been waiting for this perfect moment. Furious over his subordinate's betrayal, Leo swore to wipe Avalon off the map. But then, a mysterious voice reminded him that the Great Moon had given him another chance. Meanwhile, our hero wakes up in Rodmill, absolutely loving his new life. The days are incredibly peaceful, letting him sleep in and eat whatever he wants. Honestly, he is living like a true, spoiled noble in this quiet little town. But the peaceful days do not last. Evan suddenly brings him a letter announcing the sudden death of Lau Palacio, urging Alan to return home. Just like that, his cozy vacation is over, and he is heading back for his brother's funeral. The staff's behavior is pretty weird. Even Evan asks when he became the secret leader of the Shadows. Honestly, only those crazy simulation runs could have landed him in this bizarre situation. He asks Evan why on earth he is being treated like a villain. Evan points out that he is the only one benefiting, plus he has a perfect alibi. After all, Lau was eliminated right after they left. With Avalon gone and Lau dead, nothing stands in his way. To everyone else, this means he is now the county's shadow leader who ruthlessly ordered his own brother's execution. But our hero knows that wiping out an underworld big shot in an instant is no easy feat. Thinking it over, he realizes there must be a specialized organization out there that hunts down nobles. Evan mentions that according to reports, an elite group called the Blue Moon is not behind this. See, the Blue Moon usually leaves a signature mark instead of bodies, but these Avalon guys were clean-cut with a sword. Our hero remembers that the Blue Moon never even showed up in the original game. There is no way a legendary group would be this sloppy anyway. So, who did it? Right then, we see a white-haired, red-eyed girl asking if they left any traces behind. No trace left. But then, a boy returns with shocking news. 486 Avalon soldiers were completely slaughtered. Another success. The Sin of Obsession arrives to report a perfect job. Just like that, Avalon, the massive organization ruling the Asteria kingdom, turned to dust in only 5 days. But the cleanup was not quite perfect. They discovered files linking several nobles to Avalon, with the Alia Duchy having the deepest ties. The Sin of Wrath decides they should handle this quietly, and the others quickly fall in line. She quietly asks if this information is actually solid. He tells her the matter is being kept separate from the Blue Moon, with other guilds whispering about a legendary sword of hell crafted by a master swordsman. She warns that this news must never reach a certain person's ears, but he assures her the threat is already handled. Still, she reminds him they are just weapons, and a sword does not think for itself. The Blue Moon must only strike when ordered, especially since he already knows everything. As their leader, she declares they can never disappoint him. The other Sins simply cannot understand why someone as ridiculously powerful as Utia is acting so anxious, constantly fearing they might get exposed. All for the Great Moon, that is their sacred motto, and they will protect it at all costs. Meanwhile, back at the manor, our protagonist is absolutely drowning in piles of endless overdue paperwork. Sure, Lau had plenty of enemies, but his death was supposed to happen 6 years later. The game's timeline is totally messed up, and now all the inheritance work falls onto him. He bitterly remembers how much the late Count used to procrastinate. The staff is working like crazy too, mostly because they are terrified he might eliminate them next. Rumors are already spreading that he is the evil mastermind behind his brother's death. In reality, he is just a tired office worker in a fantasy world who wants a quiet life. He really wishes they would handle things on their own without him. Evan soon approaches the young master, bringing up the upcoming Noble Ball. It is a massive social gathering for the southern aristocracy, designed specifically for high society networking. Since he is about to become a count, networking is crucial for securing a peaceful future. However, the moment he actually steps into the ballroom, the entire atmosphere freezes, and everyone prepares for the worst. He already knows they look down on him as a low-class thug from Fedora. Unlike his legendary great-grandfather, the current Patio family is widely known as a bunch of absolute scoundrels. He came prepared. He is ready to show off the elegant social skills he secretly practiced. But when he tries to compliment the wine, he looks like a total maniac, radiating a terrifyingly evil aura instead. Talk about suffering from success. One noblewoman gets so pressured by his dark look that she desperately offers him wine and runs. He honestly expected people to be a bit shy, not absolutely terrified of him. Before he knows it, people are showering him with luxury horses, rare tea, medals, and expensive wine, all out of pure, unadulterated fear. The Patio name is way more infamous than he realized, and the scary rumors have everyone actively avoiding him. All his socializing efforts are a total bust. But then, a mysterious red-haired woman shows some interest. She approaches him politely, asking if they could have a quick chat. When he turns around, he instantly recognizes her as Loria, the daughter of the powerful Duke Alia. The Alia family is legendary in the underworld, known as the crazy troublemakers of the north. Honestly, he is pretty sure there is not a single normal person in that bloodline. Strangely, he does not remember her from the game at all. She gets straight to the point, begging him to lend her his strength, because she will soon be killed. She explains that she was only tolerated because she is the daughter of the Duke's mistress. The Duke is dying. Now, her older sisters are actively trying to eliminate her. Our hero racks his brain, but she definitely should have been dead long before this point in the game. She believes only Lord Alan's immense power can save her, but our hero immediately turns down the request. Desperate, she promises to give him half of her massive fortune if he protects her. But our hero walks away, knowing he cannot even guarantee his own safety, let alone hers. He is simply not the terrifying mastermind everyone thinks he is. Arriving home exhausted, he just quietly wishes her luck, hoping she finds a much stronger ally. Deep in the shadows, an observer reports that Alia has approached the Great Moon, wondering if they should show her their wrath. The Sin Girl refuses, noting that she is the only Alia not connected to Avalon. Since she is not part of Hadon's mission, things are much simpler. The rest of the Alias will be eliminated without mercy. They carry out the Red Moon's order, making sure to block all information from reaching him. Meanwhile, another beautiful red-haired woman in a stunning dress suddenly approaches our hero to talk. He is totally astonished. Someone is actually trying to socialize with him. Looking closely, he realizes she is another major underworld character he never once encountered in his game playthrough. There is absolutely no way someone like her would approach him unless they were in deep trouble. He politely greets Zenonia, recognizing her famous family name. After all, Asteria has 3 great underworld houses. Alia rules the north, Palazzo controls the east, and Zenonia handles the rough streets of the west. Count Zenonia's eldest daughter, Kalia, is quite pleased that our hero already knows her name. While Palazzo and Alia command standard gangs, Zenonia is a full-blown crime syndicate. Though he needs connections for a peaceful life, getting mixed up with her seems like a fast track to trouble. Still, he politely compliments her beauty, and she expresses her desire to chat more. But he quickly points out that too many eyes are watching them, making a private conversation impossible right now. She chuckles, saying he is exactly like the rumors, and promises she is looking forward to their next meeting. Meanwhile, the Sins realize their information containment has hit a major new snag. Someone is still hiding up in a tree, keeping a watchful eye on the Great Moon. Sensing they are being followed, the Sins prepare to hunt down this intruder. Later, Alan and Evan head down into a deep gorge to search for something. Even though it is midday, the gorge is incredibly dark inside. He mutters to himself that if this place is empty, he is going to be seriously disappointed. In the game, finding a labyrinth here was a piece of cake. The Labyrinth of Whispers. Solving the riddles in all 8 rooms yields a powerful artifact. As our hero stares at the entrance in real life, he smiles, having memorized every single trick inside. It is nothing like the screenshots he saw online. Inside the gorge, everything looks totally artificial, almost like someone built it by hand. And of course, he slips up and claims he has been here a million times. Realizing he sounded like a lunatic, he quickly claims he just read about it somewhere. But right as the doors open, a bunch of monsters start spawning in. Evan is absolutely sweating bullets, terrified that one wrong answer will get them flattened. He has no idea how the young master stays so calm doing math in a dungeon. Even after 4 years together, the guy is still a total mystery. The kid barely ever left his mansion, yet he runs through this death trap like he owns the place. He easily cracks the puzzle, making Evan suspect him even more. Somehow, everything he does just works, but when the door opens, he looks away, feeling totally sick. Thank goodness, the nightmare is over. They finally stumbled into the treasure room. Our hero grabs a glowing ring, warning Evan that touching anything else in here is a one-way ticket to disaster. With the Oath of Restriction ring secured, they head out. It is an easy walk back since he practically memorized the map in his past life. But those giant boulders in the canyon, yeah, those are actually golems. Evan has no clue they are walking right into a worst-case scenario. Our hero just casually strolls forward, telling his loyal knight that he's got this one covered. Honestly, running away should be the priority here. But our hero decides to activate that brand new Oath of Restriction. A basic second-level spell shouldn't do jack to these monsters, but he is about to blow them away anyway. The magical fragment prompts him to choose 2 specific restrictions to empower his magic. Just like in the original game, a mysterious voice echoes from the ring, presenting him with a crucial choice. He locks in his first choice, and the voice prompts him for details. He decides that from now on, he must use the ancient hand signs of Babylon to cast his magic. The voice asks what he wants in exchange for this massive handicap. Our hero demands the power to warp reality just a tiny bit more. Once that is granted, his second restriction is forcing himself to speak only the ancient language of Babylon during combat. Hungry for more reality-bending strength, he completes the second hand sign. But looking at the weird skill icon, he suddenly wonders if he messed the whole thing up. By doubling down on both sign language and verbal restrictions, he unlocks the absolute peak of magical damage. Thanks to his endless replay sessions in his past life, he knows this exact combination is completely broken. The voice agrees to the terms and unleashes the power. The ring melts right into his skin as the heavy restrictions lock into place. Back in real time, a panicked Evan screams at him to just cast a second-level spell. That is when Proto conjures a basic lightning sphere. Even after dumping all his mana into it, the spark looks incredibly pathetic. Realizing this is his physical limit, he decides to activate the crazy buffs from his new restrictions. He aims his hand and unleashes the glowing lightning sphere directly at the oncoming golems. Testing his restricted powers, he initiates a complex refraction and repulsion sequence. Deep indigo light warps the air, splitting into dozens of electric arcs. With a series of rapid-fire hand signs, he lets loose a monstrous torrent of pure lightning. The overwhelming magic slams into the golems, completely obliterating them. Their massive stone bodies shatter into dust as lightning tears right through them. Evan is totally speechless. He asks if our hero was secretly some god-tier mage, swearing he has never seen anything like this in his 15 years as a mercenary. Our hero just shrugs, claiming he is only in the second circle. To be honest, even Proto is pretty shocked because this spell was never this busted in the game. Back in the turn-based system, players had to waste turns on incantations. He just compressed a massive 5-turn chain lightning spell, complete with 4 incantations and complex gestures, into a single moment. The catch is, he now has to do this ridiculous routine for every single spell he casts. The payoff is an instant one-shot kill from a low-level spell. Evan sighs, muttering that just watching this kid is completely exhausting. Finally, stepping out of that hellhole, our hero remembers that the Whisper Labyrinth actually had a completely different name in the game. He remembers reading a guide about it on an old forum. Players called it Palion's Labyrinth, built by a creator named Palin. As they walk, our hero explains that matching your hand signs with the magic's element gives you a massive damage multiplier. Pick the perfect enchantment, and the elemental properties shoot through the roof. Unlike the game where only numbers go up, here, the spell actually morphs into a brand new physical shape with every upgrade. He cannot wait to test this out once his mana pool refills. He is just glad they survived. Meanwhile, high up in the treetops, one of the little girl's deadly sins is silently watching his every move. She mutters some cryptic scriptures about the forgotten outer gods of the Aleph Empire. Reading an old stone, she notes how a hero was left behind by the coward Paleo, the famous emperor who stopped the monster invasion and defeated the heart-devouring beast, Al-Akalaka. This was the legacy of Emperor Palo. She has all this knowledge because she was born with the ancestral library, summoned for a much bigger mission. She already knew our hero was special since the Blood Queen followed him, but now he even knows about Paleo. She never expected the Great Moon to be connected to the Emperor. Even weirder, the phrase proto-whispered is completely missing from her ancestral library. Now she wonders who he really is. Realizing the Red Moon was absolutely right, she feels pretty embarrassed for blindly following his commands. Spotting another sin approaching, she asks if he is here to gather intel. He shakes his head, stating the Dark One has already been taken care of. They just need to report his official cause of death, a snapped neck. Meanwhile, over in Zenonia County, a sharp, red-haired woman realizes the rumors about our hero are true. He is cold, calculating, and his eyes look like a bottomless abyss. She proudly boasts about Zenonia County's immense influence. Just like our hero guessed, they are incredibly famous, despite completely staying out of high society. She asks her father if this is not fascinating, before snapping her fingers to trigger a mind control spell on him. Nobody suspects she turned the Count into a mindless puppet just so she could run the entire household. But now, Too many eyes are on her because our hero exposed her secret. Suddenly, a servant frantically calls her to her room, where she finds a dead body lying on the floor. Since the security seal was not triggered, no secrets leaked out. Still, the killer left the body here on purpose, meaning they know the truth. She realizes this mastermind saw right through her weakness the moment they met. Meanwhile, at Count Alia's estate, the young daughter sighs, realizing our hero is no ordinary guy. He is a terrifying underworld powerhouse, with the exact same ruthless eyes as her father. He was her absolute last hope, but he would never accept a bad deal. Especially now, since her greedy siblings have stripped her of everything she owned. Her older brother Tamerlan, sister Marianne, second sister Perini, and brother Key left her with absolutely nothing. She only survived this long on her father's pity, and now she is completely out of options. Suddenly, a servant rushes in to report that the young lady has returned and that Perini and Key have just taken their own lives. Why would the people who destroyed her life commit suicide? It makes absolutely zero sense. She frantically asks about Tamerlan and Marianne, only to be told that both of them are dead too. She is left completely speechless. Turns out, one of the sins quietly wiped them all out and slipped away. Right then, our hero smiles. Sometimes things just work out. After all, the real master of the Count's house is the one who patiently hid their claws. Now she finally understands what he meant during their first meeting. And just like that, with all her siblings out of the picture, she becomes the sole successor of the entire family. Would she have sold her soul to some dark deity to make all this happen? She shudders to think what he does to those who cross him. Honestly, the options are endless, so she decides to play along to keep the misfortune away. 2 months later, Alon receives a delivery. It is an expensive bottle of Cernunance wine, sent on behalf of the Duke of Alia. Alon immediately realizes young Loria sent this, not the actual Duke. It completely confuses him, but the messenger insists the Duke himself was the one who ordered the wine to be delivered. Wait, does that mean the youngest daughter is now the Duchess? Alon is completely stunned. Meanwhile, Loria is writing letters, amazed at how fast those 2 months flew by. After her father tragically fell ill and passed away, the ceremony made her the official Duchess. She used to be banned from the family office. Now, she runs the entire show. Because her siblings died so suddenly, no one even suspected her. She had a rock-solid alibi, and her secret squad was conveniently wiped out by her brothers before she even got home. She had no real power back then, so she is amazed at how everything played out. He, Alon, played it incredibly cool, quietly cleaning up the board from behind the scenes. She seriously wonders if this man can predict the absolute future. She kept her father's funeral a secret so she wouldn't bother him, convinced he only helped because he needs her Utia family name. Even after gathering all of Altia's hidden factions, she still cannot match his insane power. This makes her suspect his secret syndicate must need something very specific from her new territory. He is an absolute kingpin of the underworld who built everything from scratch, but he lacks high society political power. That is why she thinks he wants the prestigious Altia name as a chess piece. And get this, she is fully preparing to meet this legendary kingpin, hoping that extremely pricey bottle of wine bought her some goodwill. Alon can only marvel at how she escaped certain doom to become a duchess. A few months pass, marking 5 years since this whole journey started. Evan asks if he should address him as Count now. Alon says the official ceremony hasn't happened, but after a year, it is close enough. He never actually wanted to be a count, but he might as well enjoy the perks of the title. He just received a letter from Utia, and asks Evan if there is any new lead on who killed Leo. Evan admits the Information Guild is still searching, but has nothing yet. Evan asks what his real goal is, assuming it is not just basic revenge. Alon is simply bracing for impact, since this timeline is drifting far from the original game. Evan smiles, saying he sounds just like a count. Alon reads a letter from the adorable Solung, who talks about her hobbies and professional ventriloquism. She says she loves playing with friends. The letters also mention that Renai loves reading while multitasking, and Radon has taken up gardening. This beautiful monthly routine of exchanging updates genuinely warms Alon's heart. Thinking about the 5 future disasters, Alon asks Evan how old they are. Evan notes they are finally ready to enter society. They even signed the letter, thanking Alon for his care. Alon realizes he has no reason to keep them locked away now that they are grown up. He raised them with enough love to prevent them from becoming the legendary 5 sins, and knows they will be just fine. The game's narration once detailed their boss fights. Utia possessed the talent of absolute belief, and Deos had the talent of the supreme sword. Renai was a genius at studying. Solung was born to fight, and Radon had the talent of an apostle. Guided correctly, they will live much better lives this time. In the meantime, Alon prepares a farewell gift for the children. He finishes them, jokingly hoping for a return on his investment when they grow up, and waits for them to set off. At the orphanage, Utia gathers the others, announcing that a letter from their master has arrived for each of them. They open them eagerly, thrilled to receive their first official orders. Utia warns them to read the letters before celebrating. They finally have permission to read these direct orders from above. Since the Blue Moon sent a letter to everyone, it must be an urgent gathering. But the text reads like a casual conversation with no direct orders, prompting the cat-eared Solung to read hers aloud. The young villains read their instructions together. Solung must head to Colony, while Deos is ordered to Caliburn, the famous nation of knights. Radon is sent to Rexus, the city of entertainment, and Renai must go to Larthania, the city of labyrinths. Utia is directed to the Holy Kingdom's city, Rosario. To top it off, Deos must become a sponsored knight. The letters also reveal the locations of special gifts left for them. Utia reminds everyone to never mention the name Blue Moon until their master says otherwise. Each of the young villains sets off for their assigned locations. Utia realizes he always hides his real orders within casual banter. The actual mission is slipped right after the pleasantries, commanding them to report back once finished. He even officially entrusted the Blue Moon to her. This brilliant method prevents any info leaks, forcing everyone to carefully decode and execute his hidden commands. Deos suggests using magic communicators to stay in touch with the Blue Moon. Utia commands them all to strictly follow their master's orders. Feeling her absolute devotion, Deos vows he will never forget his duty. 3 months later, Alon is deep into ancient books, researching forbidden magic and phrases. He checks in on the investigation regarding Leo's sudden death. The Info Guild has turned up absolutely nothing. Thanks to the sins, the butterfly effect has completely derailed the timeline. Even Loria, who was supposed to die, is now the Duchess of Alia. Alon orders Evan to call off the investigation entirely. He figures that, in this case, ignorance is absolute bliss. In the game, the guild's spy network was flawless. Alon stops digging to avoid any unnecessary trouble, a cautious move that might just save his life. Secret syndicates won't bother Alon if he simply stays out of their way. There is no reason for them to strike, so he tells Evan to drop the search. But here is the crazy part. Evan warns him that Deos has already become a knight. Alon shrugs, until 3 months later, when the kid literally founds his own order. This catches Alon off guard. Deos was only supposed to be at the expert tier, nowhere near a master. Yet, he is on track to become the 15th youngest Master Knight in history. He will soon join the elite swords of Caliburn, with the whole city celebrating. 6 more months pass, marking a full year since the children left, and Alon became a count. Evan delivers the shocking news that Deos has officially become a Sword of Caliburn, the 15th Master Knight in history. Alon notes that only true swordmasters can achieve this rank. In the game, a swordmaster is a superhuman who transcends the aura blade to unlock a unique derivation skill. Evan explains that while Deos hasn't fully unlocked his yet, he is incredibly close. Regardless, the kingdom named him a Master Knight after he won a duel against the Fourth Sword, filling a vacancy left by the Northern Barbarians. Achieving mana mastery typically takes 15 years, and the derivation takes decades more. Reinhardt, the strongest sword in the game, was 32 when he set the record as the youngest master. He even joined Alon's party once. Reinhardt was an absolute beast, yet it still took him 20 years to join the top ranks. Now, a kid who knew nothing about swords has become a Master Knight. He has already surpassed Reinhardt, but he is just waiting for his true power to awaken. Though our main character might not get to use him yet, since he only gets letters from Utia. Ever since she went to the Holy Kingdom, her letters kept him updated on the sins. Still, he feels bad for never properly saying thank you for the gift, and that they never met our main character in person. Our hero goes back to the very start, relieved that the 5 great sins did not wipe out the kingdom when they woke up. Honestly, as long as his kids are doing well, he is happy. Over in Cam, the capital of Caliburn, stands a grand noble mansion. This massive estate serves as the main base for the famous Knights of the Solar Eclipse. Up above, Deos Malayan watches over everything. As a captain of the Solar Eclipse and the youngest Master Knight, he is greeted by his sister, and he is overjoyed to see her alive. Looking back makes him feel pretty embarrassed, even though a whole year has passed since the Black Plague stole everything from him, leaving nothing but absolute, uncontrollable rage. Just being saved by the Great Moon was not enough to make him swear absolute loyalty, but because the man promised him sweet revenge against the demons, he willingly followed every single command. Working with the Blue Moon meant surviving some brutally dangerous training, and he did not care if he lived or died. For years, he completed the crucial missions needed to finally defeat the Black Plagues. Shortly after, he got a direct order mentioning a special gift waiting for him at a hotel. He did not care about presents until he opened the door and saw who was inside. The incredible gift mentioned in the letter was actually the family he thought he had lost forever. This sister is more precious to him than his own life. Seeing Sylvia alive, the knight completely breaks down in tears, and honestly, who could blame him? Following those terrible events, the siblings were separated. She had to wait in the pitch black for a very long time, but when her chance finally came, she escaped into the light and survived. A few years later, she was almost sold to a slave merchant, but a mercenary named Evans rescued her. After that, her generous benefactor kept sending her medicine to recover, and the man signing those letters was none other than our hero, Alan Palacio. Sylvia was incredibly grateful for his help, and the knight is deeply moved that Alan protected his sister under the Palacio name. He never talked about his family, and only Julia knew he had been captured by the Black Lamb. Turns out, our hero, the Blue Moon, already knows absolutely everything. Suddenly, all his doubts clicked together like puzzle pieces and vanished. He could never understand why Utia was so anxious, realizing he was the only fool here. With good things happening, he reflects on what was said. Alan Palacio knew everything, and even warned the child about what was to come. Though his sword wanted to strike on its own, he chose to show mercy, despite his mind being consumed by hatred for the Black Lamb. Instead, he was given the most priceless gift, his sister, alive. Utia had told him he would eventually understand why she followed Alan Palacio, proving she was never just some blind fanatic or trusting him without reason. Because of this, the knight feels a deep need to repay his debt. His goal is to reach the absolute peak of Caliburn, become a master knight, and build his own personal order of elite swordsmen. Time passes, and the moment finally arrives for him to establish his new order. This upcoming expedition will serve as the sharp spearhead for the solar eclipse. No matter what hardships lay ahead, he would prepare for the day he could truly repay his savior. He commands his recruits to prove their worth under the watchful moon. The Knights of the lunar eclipse set off on their grand expedition to battle the barbarians. Seeing his children fully grown and spreading their wings makes Alan happy. After returning from the labyrinth, he keeps searching for a key phrase. The report is ready. Refraction is a technique that fixes the flaws in a complete spell, expanding its area of effect. By changing the spell's form, refraction alters how the projectile behaves. Indigo light boosts parallel magic like a lightning spell. The diffraction line guarantees deep penetration, landing a devastating critical hit. With his limited mana, he could only cast a single spell each day, which made discovering refraction a painfully slow process. Because this world's history is predetermined, ancient signs and the language of Babylon were forgotten, leaving him with zero clues. In the end, he had to research everything himself, making new discoveries while mastering protective barrier magic. Now, it is finally time to test the fruits of his 2 months of hard work. By destroying the mana field's focal point, he creates an imbalance to summon lightning, normally considered a weak, useless spell when fixed in place. Next, he applies compression and chants the incantation to summon it. Finally, he triggers collapse, focusing the energy. The sudden blossoming of the lightning becomes incredibly powerful, realizes the order of the chant matters immensely. Activating collapse first makes the magic way stronger. Watching him cast such a primordial, originating spell leaves the red-haired woman completely stunned. Our hero asks what Kalia is doing there. Both she and her companion know that casting an originating spell requires being at least a 7th circle mage. Yet, Alan did not even realize he had reached the 7th or 8th circle. Meeting inside Count Palacio's reception room, Kalia has 2 main goals. First, she wants to confirm the Count's true intentions, which will decide how much damage Zenonia takes. Second, she needs to gauge the strength of the organization backing him, which let him seize the Palacio estate. But instead, she discovers that the Count himself is a terrifyingly powerful and proud mage. She had never seen Vian, the 5th circle mage who was banished from the magic tower for his cruel human experiments, look this terrified. This was a ruthless man who could easily slaughter an entire military division, yet right now, she can feel real fear radiating from him, which is incredibly bizarre. Is it because of the originating spell Alan Palacio just cast? Our hero steps forward and asks what she wants in his territory. She quickly replies that she has waited a long time to meet him. Alan cuts in, explaining it was not an originating spell. He claims he is only a 2nd circle mage, and surely the expert standing right beside her must have noticed the lack of high-level magical residue. The terrified mage quickly stammers that he must have misread the flow of mana. Our hero is relieved to have cleared up the misunderstanding, allowing them to finally get down to business. Kalia explains she wanted to visit after finishing some nearby business. But our hero politely drops a hint that he is busy, subtly telling her to scram. Understanding the cue, she stands up to leave. Before she goes, he suggests that if she ever needs a chat, she should visit Duchess Alia, as they would likely get along great. She thanks him and takes her leave. Evan asks why Zenonia, a fallen noble family from the east, would show up here. Our hero pretends to be clueless, but he knows this spells trouble. If rumors spread that he can cast primordial magic, every powerhouse will hunt him down. Since they are actively fighting for control over the underworld, there is no way she can visit Utia, so he warns them to stay far away from her. Back with the guests, Valkian keeps wondering if that really was primordial magic. Why would the Count deny it? Even though primordial magic operates under its own special laws, the core absolute principles should still apply. But only the absolute strongest mages can pull that off. Using his specialized eye, he analyzed Alan Palacio's spellcasting, realizing the young Count was actively breaking those absolute principles by molding the thunder and collapsing the natural laws. Despite shattering the laws, the magic still fully materialized, pulling off an impossible miracle. And what comes next is even worse. By using the magical essence of the Golden Mane tribe, the item's description reveals the hidden location of emergency treasure vaults. In this brutal nation of warriors, absolute strength is the only thing that gets you everything. The desert nation of Colony is where another powerful sin resides. There is no doubt that our main character is actually a great outer god, and the terrified mage realizes Alan's existence poses a massive threat to the world. Having spent his life researching ancient, forgotten magic, Bianca warns Zenonia to never oppose Count Palacio, as his power is on a completely different level. So she decides to stop trying to decipher his intentions, realizing Alan's suggestion to meet Duchess Alia was just him moving her like a pawn on his chessboard. 5 months later, about 2 years since the kids left the orphanage, Alan asks for any news. Instead, Evan reveals that Zenonia County and the Duchess of Utia have formed an alliance. This sudden union of the underworld's two fiercest rivals leaves Alan completely shocked. He wanted a peaceful path for the kids, but now this twin alliance threatens to set the kingdom of Asteria on fire. He never dreamed she would take his casual words so seriously, praying this joint front would only be temporary after his brief chat with the two of them. Even so, Alan must prepare for a potential war. He quickly drafts an apology letter to Kalia, hoping the child never discovers his lie, while placing his trust in Eva to manage the rest. He plans to send the letter through a mercenary guild, though he still wonders where Radon and his gang are. Since Utia gave no specific details, he just hopes they haven't been wiped out. If she finds the gift mentioned in the letter, she will become the peak of all Baba Yaga fighters. At last, the cat-eared girl's grueling trial concludes. She thanks the Great Moon for gifting her the powerful gauntlet, having always believed the Golden Mane tribe was just a myth. She now holds the true essence of the wolf race, descendants of the ultimate beast kings. This sacred essence of the Golden Mane tribe is a legendary relic passed down through her family for generations, granting immense strength and supreme authority. By conquering every trial to claim this power, she finally learns the shocking truth that the Great Moon was her savior, rescuing her from being discarded as a mere test subject. This blessing granted her the strength to avenge her parents, who were slaughtered by the Black Dragon. Now, she is determined to repay our main character, knowing he expects her to be far more than a mediocre gladiator. From this day on, she will become the strongest gladiator alive, rebuild the Golden Mane tribe, and hunt down that Black Dragon. It is all for the Great Moon, and her hunt begins now. The legendary Beast King of the Golden Mane tribe is about to rise again after centuries. Meanwhile, word arrives that the Information Guild has finally gathered news regarding the kids. Eva reports that Lord R is thriving in the colony, even earning the nickname Golden Lightning. Our hero is relieved to hear he is safe, but immediately asks about Radon, who went silent while studying rift magic. Neither our hero nor Eva can separate the true rumors from the lies regarding Radon. Our hero suggests that Radon must be incredibly busy trying to verify his own lead anyway. Either way, he needs to prepare since a carriage ride to the tower takes a full month. Eva is fairly used to the hectic schedule by now, even if a month seems weirdly long compared to the week it takes to reach the Green Magic Tower. That is when our hero explains they are actually traveling to the Blue Magic Tower, which is much further away. With a nod, Eva leaves the room to begin her preparations. Our hero groans, already tired of the thought of spending a whole month in a carriage. But he needs the artifact in Labyrinth City to support his dangerously small mana pool, a place that brings back deep memories. Back when this was a video game, he spent countless hours farming there. The massive labyrinth in the middle of the city was the absolute classic map for grinding levels. Players get much better loot by leveling up and going deeper. But despite countless adventurers visiting, nobody ever cleared the labyrinth. Our hero actually used a cheat to reach the 150th floor, and it kept going. Just like in the game, relic artifacts are constantly unearthed here. This made the magic appraiser profession wildly popular, guaranteeing anyone with the skill a life of luxury. Ryan mentioned she is taking the appraisal exam soon and should easily pass. Realizing the gift he gave her was far smaller than what the others received, he decides she deserves some extra, personalized support. Lania is a lawless labyrinth city of bold explorers and rough mercenaries governed by absolutely no one. Tucked away on a busy southern corner is a highly exclusive, secret appraisal shop called MR, famous for catering to wealthy, A-rank adventurers. Even the Lord of Lania himself is a client, having recently acquired a mana-powered fire-starting device, a unique relic that can accept a special engraving. This special engraving allows a tiny trace of mana to keep the flame lit for an hour. As the trade concludes, we see that the masked shopkeeper is actually Hyde. She notes that other relics can receive the same engraving. The real reason this little shop became so famous is because these engravings are known to be divine blessings from the Great Moon. When she was first ordered to become an appraiser, Hyde was completely confused. After all, her true identity is an ancient companion of Palon from the long-forgotten era of the Outer Gods. She understood that the grand goal was to eliminate the world's plagues, but she failed to see the connection. To her, sitting around appraising old trinkets had absolutely nothing to do with fighting monsters. But the moment she saw his gift, she understood the plan. The stalker's eye she received instantly identifies items with mana limits, making her job incredibly easy. Unlike anything she knew, the relic's essence doesn't exist in the Eternal Library. Once the seal's shattered, she unlocked the engraving, but to gain the strength to fight monsters, she must fully awaken the item by offering sacrifices. She needs to present over 252 sacrifices before it fully awakens. While this boosts the relic's stats, it slowly drains her life force, gradually changing the very nature of her eye. Even worse, this relic only reacts to specific, high-level artifacts. Appraising these relics and selecting high-level sacrifices to engrave is a task only she can handle, thanks to her connection to the Library of Eternity. It is all a grand plan to slay the Black Wolf that wiped out her family, running exactly according to the will of the Great Moon. 3 weeks later, they reach the Blue Magic Tower. Since the Tower Master is away, the Vice Master, Fenya Cryena, coldly orders our hero to state his business quickly. Our hero recognizes her face immediately, remembering her from the game's main storyline. In the game, she was a legendary prodigy who reached the 8th circle at just 20 years old before taking over the tower. The Magic Tower is incredibly powerful, holding monopolies on goods that elevate its status to match the high nobility. As the Vice Master, her authority is practically off the charts. Introducing himself as Count Palatio, he explains that he has come to discuss an urgent matter regarding the mysterious Time Gate. He claims he can permanently close the Time Gate, a dangerous rift leading to a mysterious subspace that tears open in areas of high magic use, causing massive damage. She scoffingly tells him to leave, pointing out his weak magic talent and demanding a far better explanation than that. The prodigy points out that closing the gate and claiming its treasure is way out of his league, adding that she rejects desperate talkers every single day. But he calmly responds that if she takes him there, he will prove it. The Vice Master assumes he wants a massive achievement to quiet public rumors, since everyone knows he only became a count after his brothers died. However, she warns him that he cannot bring his political schemes to her tower. Our hero quietly curses how fast those nasty rumors have spread. She might seem like a sheltered workaholic, but she is clearly very well informed about the outside world. She is genuinely terrifying, suddenly releasing a heavy, bizarre energy in front of him. Evan whispers a tense warning that they might get sliced in half if they push her too far. Instead of backing down, our hero steps directly into her aura, offering a bet if they fail to close the gate. He will hand over his entire fortune. He suggests they seal it with an oath, an incredibly sweet deal for a bit of her time. She leads him straight to the Time Gate, smugly claiming all his fortune will belong to her if he fails. This arrogant woman wonders if he is some brilliant mastermind or just a decent guy who got lucky. But after listening to him speak, she decides he is just incredibly blessed with pure luck. Despite his scary vibe, his mana pool is tiny, with only decent energy detection. To her, he is totally pathetic. She thinks there is no point in closing the gate anyway, since it will vanish on its own in 3 months after dropping the relic, ending their research. Too bad, because that Time Gate in the Blue Magic Tower kept causing absolute chaos for over 2 years. Since he seems useless, she tells our hero to get out. She mocks him for using his hand instead of a staff, calling it a fairy tale stunt, and demands he stop playing around with hand signs and leave. Suddenly, time completely stops. She freezes in place as an eerie eye slowly opens right in front of her. The observing eye has instinctively activated. He senses something terrifying beyond comprehension, like a poisoned cup meant for absolute destruction. A massive hand reaches out, delivering an absolute command that instantly forces the Vice Mage to understand her new orders. Just like that, the gate shuts closed. It is an easy job for our main character, thanks to his secret tools. He casually picks up the relic Sharon left behind. He decides he needs to test this a bit more, so he casts a spell of conviction on her. It works like a charm. She is left in absolute shock, babbling that she will never speak a word. She screams that she will take this secret to her grave, begging him to trust her silence. Our hero has absolutely no idea why she is suddenly losing her mind, so he and Evan just turn and walk away. Still trembling from the shock, the girl presents a custom mana recovery potion she brewed herself. Even our hero is impressed to receive a handmade brew from the Vice Tower Master. It is top-tier stuff, and she nervously asks if he likes it. Thanks to his spell, she is incredibly grateful to him for sealing the gate. She promises to keep everything he asked secret by taking a literal mana oath, leaving him wondering what on earth she got so wrong. Without hesitation, she immediately swears the sacred mana oath to prove her loyalty. Our hero realizes she has no intention of clearing up this massive misunderstanding. Well, whatever. He got his hands on the relic he came for, 5 premium potions, and a binding oath. Time to head out with Evan. Considering how hard it was to track down, this legendary relic looks surprisingly basic. Still, he knows this is the exact tool he absolutely needs to survive. Getting the seal of the profane without any trouble was a huge win. The gem on the bracelet draws mana straight from the air, and it is working perfectly. The capacity is modest, but it is more than enough for his needs. His goal is purely study and self-preservation, not active combat. He just needs a body that consumes less magic than an average enchanted item. He still wonders what exactly Penha got so wrong about him sealing that portal. Her sudden polite attitude toward them was bizarre. When he mentions he is only a second circle mage, she actually looks thrilled about it. It is the exact same reaction Kalia had. She still seems a bit uneasy, but goes along with his words. Honestly, it does not matter. He is never seeing them again anyway. Back home, everything is peaceful. Elsewhere, Duchess Altia greets Lady Zenonia, mentioning how long it has been since they last spoke. Following our hero's explicit instructions, she is more than happy to welcome the young lady. It is incredibly convenient that they do not have to argue over status or authority during this chat. Zenonia recalls Count Alan's advice to pay the Duchess a visit. Taking his suggestion made her realize his clever motive behind this little gathering. As they converse, both women slowly realize just how far ahead of them Count Alan really is. Ultimately, this alliance is formed under Count Alan's command, since struggling for power is pointless beneath the true number one. Zenonia and Altia quickly grow comfortable with each other. She explains she visited because the Count sent a letter, using their past meeting as an excuse. Looking over the letter, she reads his thoughts on the noble families. It looks like a standard apology note, but a deeper scheme is hidden within the lines. This is exactly why Zenonia wanted to consult Altia. He casually wrote that very few nobles actually managed to please him. Baron Kenya is a solid noble faction member, while Maris Morante and Viscount Belanda are heavy hitters for the royals. Even Duke Faldiel, who he spoke with at the ball, is a key figure among the nobility. To put it simply, he despises both sides of the political spectrum. They realize his actual plan might be to wipe them all out entirely, using sheer common sense. They conclude that Alan wants to purge the current nobility. That is why Altia needed massive influence, leading him to make her a duchess. With the ruler of the West on his side, they can finally coordinate. Meanwhile, back at the Blue Magic Tower, the Count notes that someone behaves just like that unstable gate. Random puzzle pieces are wildly shifting and falling into place. Nearby, Mosoi groans that he hates traveling and just wants to go home. It is nearly time for Utia's letter to reach him, revealing her exact location. We catch a glimpse of the white-haired girl dressed in holy religious robes. Penha's master returns and confronts his student, noticing the Gate of Time has completely vanished. Micardo, the master of the Selene Magic Tower, demands to know what happened, but she cryptically replies that she simply completed her assigned task. He knows something massive went down, even as she snaps at him like always. Because Penha became the Vice Tower Master at such a young age, her genius talent made her incredibly arrogant and reckless. She regularly makes the magic apprentices cry and behaves terribly. Still, he never bothered to correct her personality because her passion for magic was completely genuine. He figured once she reached the 7th circle, she would realize how small her achievements are and humble herself. But her current behavior is incredibly bizarre. He notes that his trip to the north took a long time, demanding to know what she did while he was gone. When she mentions the Count sealed the gate, he asks what kind of oath she swore. Bound by her vow, she cannot explain the details, but she briefly mentions the deal she struck. It turns out what humbled the arrogant Penha was a bizarre, terrifying magic. She is still too terrified to even flinch. Count Alan of the Asteria Kingdom was the only man capable of curing Penha's ego. 1 month after returning from the tower, our hero focuses on his training, beginning deep research into ancient magical phrases. He starts to understand the hidden rules behind using magical phrases. He suspects it relates to how and where they are placed, but he cannot prove it yet. Watching him practice, Evan remarks that the Count is growing exponentially stronger. Magic at the second circle has never looked this devastating before. The output is on a totally different level compared to just a few months ago. Our hero knows a standard gravity spell should not leave a crater this massive. Normally, second circle gravity magic is not strong enough to completely crush solid stone. He initially thought he was simply growing stronger, but now it feels like a trick. If there is a reason his power spiked so dramatically, it cannot be explained by skill alone. Normal magic improvement only refines your speed and precision. The specialized phrases are more like trigger words used to alter elemental attributes. He spent months tweaking the setup of his gravity spells, using nearly identical patterns. In the end, he realized that power only scales up incrementally as he perfects the magical formula. Since there is no logical explanation for this sudden boost in firepower, maybe he is just having a good day. Evan hands him Udia's newly arrived letter, just as our hero finishes his 3 daily spell casts. He wonders if this unnatural boost is actually some twisted reward for surviving a curse being an ancient ritual where a caster sacrifices their own life to doom another. When struck, the target takes a hit but gets a nice little reward as compensation. Since there is nobody from the east nearby, that theory is out. Maybe it is faith, though a tiny kingdom ignored by the underworld should not get this much divine favor. Honestly, he should just shrug it off, move on, and pray things do not go completely south. Welcome to Ryanel, the holy capital of the Rosary Kingdom. It is a pristine white city dedicated to Caronia, goddess of the moon and peace. Over in the Eastern Prayer House, the Sin Girl greets Lord Lockage. He immediately notices she is a low-ranking nun, lacking even the basic sash of holy grace. Even so, he shows deep respect to Sister Altia, thanking her for helping save 8 children and 25 villagers from the eastern border. She humbly deflects, calling herself just an ignorant woman and reminding him that he was the true teacher behind those good deeds, leaving him forever grateful to her. For 20 long years, he lived in absolute despair because he could not feel divine power. He was ready to give up completely until Sister Altia told him to put his faith in the moon if he truly wanted a fresh start. When you are that desperate, you will try absolutely anything. And so, he did. He prayed to the moon for a few days, just like Altea suggested. Miraculously, the divine power awakened, and he gave in to a momentary temptation. By praying to the moon instead of the goddess Chironia, he worried he was straying into heresy. But hey, power borrowed from gods is basically all the same, right? Even the goddess's holy artifacts glowed in his hands, proving his new power was real. When he asked Sister Altea why she made him pray to the moon, she explained that traditional faith takes too long to show itself. It is much easier to get what you need from something you can actually see. The moon would always be right there above him. He agreed, reasoning that the goddess and the moon are basically one and the same, helping doubtful humans believe with total certainty. With real proof of his faith in hand, he thanked the sister from the bottom of his heart. She playfully suggested they pray together to express his gratitude. He loved that idea and was down to do it as much as she wanted. Luckily, he arrived just in time for their daily prayer gathering. Inside the church, she starts the prayer to the moon. Meet Sister Utia from the Rosary Kingdom, the former sin girl turned holy nun. Meanwhile, our hero realizes today's mail is pretty boring. No drama means everyone is doing fine, which is great, but he is kind of sad that Utia is literally his only pen pal. To be fair, he is just some random lord they have never met. So why would they write? He already achieved his main goal of steering them away from destroying the world. He should be celebrating, not moping. Sister Utia is super busy, yet she still sends updates. It is like raising 5 ungrateful kids, but only the oldest actually appreciates the effort. Irvin drops by to ask if he has a second. The Information Guild finally got back to him regarding his search for young Rayon. Turns out, the kid has apparently become a full-on pirate, which our hero finds incredibly bizarre to imagine. First, let us check the rumors about Sarong and Deos. Sarong hit a 32 win streak, which is the milestone to become the legendary Baba Yaga. The absolute record holder is still the Lion King at 41 wins. The Lion King was a completely broken character who briefly joined the player's party back in the game. The colony relies heavily on monsters like that for defense, and Sarang is about to pass all of them. As for Deos, his holy order just executed Chief Korga, one of the 8 frozen barbarian leaders who use dark rituals to turn themselves into terrifying monsters. Our hero knows these guys inside out from his gaming days, back when he personally put down the god Urus. He is just glad he does not have to deal with them, since Urus only spawns when the 5 sins gather. This means he does not need to worry about Deos, who is basically being treated as a top-tier powerhouse now. Meanwhile, Reyna became a professional appraiser, printing black engravings to boost artifact stats. But getting back to the main point, our hero asks if Rayon really turned into a pirate. Irvin explains that out near the Rach's coast, there are 7 archipelagos ruled by elite pirates, And Rayon somehow became the captain of the first archipelago, the biggest of them all. A random online post our hero once laughed at has literally become reality. Honestly, our hero did not send him to Raches for this. But since Rayon is related to the sea god, he is a natural swimmer and master tracker. The ocean is packed with ancient relics, so he basically became a highly successful treasure hunter. Being a great pirate captain means Rayon is basically the lord of an entire island now, a massive political player. Our hero cannot help but wonder how he managed to take out the previous captain. Every single pirate captain is a superhuman monster who has never lost a sea battle. Our hero guesses Rayon must have uncovered some seriously overpowered ancient relics to pull this off. Back in the game, our hero had to grind mini-games for hours just to get a decent relic to steal that captain title. He knows life is not always fair, but this is ridiculous. The bitter news makes the Count feel a little sick to his stomach. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the Corxia Principality, we find the massive, bustling port city of Raches. Just past the harbor lie the 7 lawless pirate havens, with the first archipelago ruling them all. The terrifying pirate Alcra, the Red Slayer, used to run this place with an iron fist. Alcra bought the protection of the Celestial King with sheer wealth, but he was still brutally defeated by the new captain. Say hello to the latest sin our hero unleashed upon the world. Rayon looks out at the sea, wondering about the mysterious Great Moon. He never used to care about such cosmic entities. Initially, he was just grateful to the entity for saving his life. Rayon was destined to die a miserable slave, but the deity allowed him to meet Sister Utia and awaken his true potential. At first, he was just happily following Utia's orders, until he received a direct, confusing command from the Great Moon itself. He absolutely hated the idea of playing the part of some lowly treasure hunter. He wanted immediate bloody revenge for his peaceful clan, which was completely wiped out by dark, monstrous creatures on their hidden island. On the continent of the cursed, ruthless hunters murdered his exhausted parents and sold him off into slavery. He did not see how treasure hunting would help him get his revenge, but he decided to play along with the goddess's orders anyway. He snaps back to reality as his ship throws a noisy celebration. The crew cheers, bragging that only a chosen great pirate can buy the Celestial King's absolute protection. Right in the middle of the party, he spots the very bastards who slaughtered his parents. He begins plotting a brutal ritual of revenge, using the body parts of the sea god's bloodline. That sick ritual is how they siphon power from Cleed, the sea god. It is the exact same magic used by all 7 pirate captains. Those vile hunters were the ones who butchered his parents, splitting their bodies into 7 pieces. Rayon wonders how the Great Moon even knew about his past, since he never told a soul. It feels like a setup for perfect vengeance, but he cannot just rush in blindly. His targets are superhuman monsters backed by divine power. If the Great Moon planned all this, then there must be a hidden purpose behind the strange necklace he was gifted. The Great Moon must have orchestrated every single detail, laying down the perfect foundation for his ultimate revenge. Back on the island, Rayon dives into the water as his necklace starts glowing with raw magic. The Great Moon's gift was actually a set of Amrita's legendary goggles. The item lets him pinpoint deep-sea treasures effortlessly, and the relics he recovered easily make up for his lack of physical power. He feels foolish for ever doubting the deity. In the end, the Great Moon kept its promise to Rayon the pirate. This didn't just deliver his target right to him, it gave him the raw power to strike them down. Finally, the Great Moon's cryptic letter makes perfect sense. The plan is clear: destroy his enemies and seize control of all 7 archipelagos. The white-haired girl whispers that every step is for the Great Moon. A phrase that once meant absolutely nothing now carries massive weight in his heart. With total confidence, he knows it is all for the Great Moon. 3 months pass, and winter arrives. The new season brings the massive social gathering of Asteria. Sadly, he is dragged along too, since attendance is strictly mandatory once every 4 years. On schedule, the flashy and simple noble carriages form a giant convoy. Traveling together keeps the bandits away, but that night, our hero learns their family finances are completely trashed. Turns out, they think his new status is just a lucky break. And honestly, these annoying nobles are a much bigger headache than highway bandits. He easily understands their greed. The Imperial Palace maintains its absolute authority by dominating the massive eastern underworld, which was built entirely on dirty black market money. But our guy is perfectly happy leaving that shady business behind, since his other ventures bring in plenty of clean gold. Naturally, the top spot is vacant. Now the eastern underworld is crawling with desperate low-level thugs trying to grab power. Rumors that he became a count through pure dumb luck are basically treated as solid facts now. They see him as a spoiled lottery winner instead of the brains of the operation. Now they think he is completely broke and keep throwing annoying insults his way. He just rolls his eyes, knowing they are merely pathetic errand boys controlled by the palace. These guys are just taking out their own past humiliations on him. Even though he wasn't even the count back then, They blame him anyway. Realizing he is dealing with fantasy world internet trolls, he decides it is best to completely ignore them. While those annoying nobles keep whining, Evan brings our hero some warm corn to snack on. Far to the north lies a brutal, freezing wasteland crawling with wild barbarians. In this cursed land of lifeless gray light, a heavily wounded warrior crawls, cursing the damn bastards of Caliber. This is Clean, one of the 8 great barbarian chiefs. Barbarians live for battle, viewing death in combat as the ultimate honor. But a dirty knight from Caliber tricked him under the guise of a fair duel, costing Clean his entire arm. Now he faces a completely shameful end. Refusing to close his eyes at death's door, he begs his brother to call upon a powerful being and its sacred name. He screams the name Ulurus, the legendary, terrifying beast that our main character fears most. As the dying barbarian invokes the mighty god, a dark, ominous power begins to rise. The mighty god Ulurus answers the dying warrior's final wish. Meanwhile, the incredibly awkward road trip continues as the convoy slowly approaches the venue of the grand gathering. Even with the families traveling together, the petty insults do not stop. Our hero refuses to take the bait, calmly resting with Evan and winning by completely ignoring them. The boasting nobles whisper about their heavy escort troops, confident that the rumors are true. They believe they can finally kickstart their master plan to seize the entire underworld. They are already dreaming of the insane wealth and power of the underworld, expecting everyone to thank them for a reality check. Suddenly, monsters ambush the convoy, forcing knights to draw their swords as mages secure their vision. Just goblins. Weak, common forest monsters. But if they get overwhelmed by sheer numbers, things can still get dangerous. The knights discover their sentries have already been wiped out. Even weirder, these goblins look completely bizarre, with glowing crystals embedded directly into their mutated bodies. They are also massive, clearly some new variant with physical strength and speed far beyond anything these knights have ever encountered before. Their mage spots high-level defense magic being cast a 3rd circle rock wall and a 2nd circle shield. To his shock, it is our main character casting these hyper-buffed spells, not their own wizard. Next, compression magic. Our hero traps the monsters inside a ball of energy before following up with a devastating vacuum technique. Jagated stones fly toward the goblins, instantly shattering them. Our hero commands the stunned knights to stop staring and start fighting, prompting them to charge and help finish off the beasts. They unleash sword and spear strikes, while our hero supports them with magic from the rear. By dawn, the entire horde of crystal goblins is finally wiped out. Stunned, everyone wonders who this mysterious guy really is, but in truth, his mana pool is tiny after casting just 4 spells. He is basically a regular guy with 0 energy left. They ask if the Count is injured, but he tells them he is perfectly fine. Still, even with Evan guarding him, being completely out of magic is a terrifying feeling. He had debated traveling alone, but ultimately chose to stick with the noble convoy. Either way, those glowing purple crystals are a massive red flag. A divine descent is actively happening. This bizarre mutation only shows up when an outer god is about to descend. The affected monsters become insanely ferocious, gaining massive boosts to their physical abilities. A clear sign of disaster. The gods, who should only appear after the 5 sins descend and world laws collapse, are already preparing to land on Earth. The kids are not awakening to the 5 cardinal sins yet, so why is this happening? He needs to gather intelligence to figure out how a god is descending early. At this rate, doom is coming fast if things keep going off script. The next day, after a long and exhausting trip, they finally arrive at the grand social gathering. Honestly, our guy just wants to go home and sleep after that exhausting fight. But looking around, this venue is incredibly lavish. Basically everything is made of solid gold. Everyone is busy showing off, and Duke Rowe is clearly a master at this. Our hero tries to avoid the snobbish crowd, but then some arrogant jerk steps up to try and mock him. Instead of insults, they start offering him top-grade meat and financial backing. Our hero is highly suspicious of why they are suddenly throwing gifts at him, but because of his exhaustion, his face looks terrifyingly grim. Misunderstanding his blank stare, the scared nobles run off without delivering anything. Let's flash back to yesterday's battle to see why. The snobby nobles had approached Baron Ullman, wanting to question his elite bodyguard. They had some pressing questions for the hired 3rd circle mage Ullman used to show off. The expert mage explains that the defense spell was way beyond 2nd circle magic, easily surpassing his own 3rd circle limits. This absolutely shocks them. They suddenly realize Count Patio isn't some lucky fool. He is actually hiding monstrous power, meaning he never needed escorts, and possesses a terrifyingly cruel nature, bribes, and begging. That is their new plan to survive. They drop to their knees right in front of our hero, pleading for mercy, while our totally clueless guy stands there absolutely baffled. He is usually a pretty chill guy, but they did cross the line earlier. He tells Evan he will handle this and shoots the kneeling nobles, a cold, unimpressed glare. After sending Evan to the Information Guild, our hero decides to scout the party for noble gossip. Spotting two figures whispering in a corner, he channels mana to supercharge his hearing and eavesdrop. He overhears them discussing a secret alliance between Duke Alia and Countess Zenonia. They are clearly trying to form a powerful new faction, though they do not fully trust it. Our hero is not worried. Those two ruling families historically hate each other, so there is no way this sketchy alliance is going to last very long. But get this, the faction leader is actually neither of them. Everyone genuinely believes the boss is none other than Count Alan Patio himself. When our hero hears this rumor, he is absolutely dumbfounded by the sheer absurdity. After all, he only met Duchess Alia once when she was young, and he barely saw Zenonia's daughter twice. As for the actual Count, he has never even laid eyes on him. While he wonders how on earth this wild rumor spread, another guest approaches Alan Patio to chat. This time, it is Carmine, the arrogant third son of Duke Kyalan from the Ashalon Kingdom. Plenty of foreign nobles are attending this social gathering, and our hero politely says it is a pleasure to meet Carmine. But Carmine just acts envious, claiming Alan became a count purely by luck and demanding to know his secret, until two other nobles suddenly interrupt. The newcomers demand to know why Carmine is mocking the entire Asteria kingdom. Realizing he messed up, Carmine quickly backtracks, claiming he was only trying to tease Count Alan Patio before turning back to him. In Alan's eyes, Carmine is just another handsome, self-proclaimed romantic. He traveled all the way from a distant land to marry Rogue's youngest daughter, genuinely believing he is far too perfect for any woman to ever reject. Right in front of the Duchess, he starts shallowly judging women by their looks, casually remarking that it is a blessing Rogue's daughter inherited her mother's beautiful appearance. Naturally, she decided to cancel the marriage proposal, leaving him chasing after Rogue's daughter in confusion. The guy is seriously too clueless to understand why she dumped him after he acted like a total jerk. Realizing his entire journey was a waste of time, he decides to bother Count Patio instead. Having heard rumors that the Count is just an immature noble with zero connections, Carmine thinks he is the perfect target to vent his frustration on. Carmine boasts that the Ashalon Kingdom has always been their loyal ally. But suddenly, three powerful figures show up, and no matter how clueless you are about politics, everyone knows exactly who they are. The heavy hitters of the noble faction, Duke Rudig and Marquis Mardanio, step up to defend their territory. Standing right beside them is Count Palin, the neutral leader of the moderate faction, who is absolutely done with this foreign noble's sheer disrespect. These men are the core pillars of the Asteria kingdom, and they are not about to let Carmine slide. Duke Rudig snaps back, asking if Duke Kyalan raised his son to treat other kingdoms' nobles with such utter disrespect. The real issue is Carmine's incredibly condescending attitude toward Count Patio. Meanwhile, Alan is just standing there feeling super awkward, since these three heavyweights are defending him when they barely even know him. As he watches the drama unfold, he suddenly gets a massive sense of déjà vu. He realizes he actually remembers these three Asteria faction leaders, making Carmine pay dearly back in the game. This brings back some serious military-grade trauma from the game for poor Carmine. Terrified, the arrogant noble quickly apologizes for his rudeness and makes a hasty retreat. The three leaders politely ask if Count Patio is doing all right. Alan is completely thrown off by their unusually respectful behavior. Honestly, seeing these massive political figures act so humble around him only makes the crazy rumor look true. If Duchess Alia and Zenonia actually start playing politics, Alan's supposed influence will be ridiculously overwhelming. Because of this single misunderstanding, his peaceful life is getting incredibly complicated. Realizing they have never had a proper chat, the nobles bring up a rumor. They heard Alan is researching magic and loves high-grade items, so Marquis Mardanio offers to present him with a rare mana-infused artifact. Suddenly, all of them start offering valuable gifts. Alan wants to keep insisting this rumor is completely baseless, but he simply cannot resist the temptation of pocketing 2 magical artifacts and 5 premium mana potions. By dawn, a secret meeting takes place in Duke Rudig's private villa. Marquis Mardanio proudly reports that Alan accepted his gifts, noting that while small tokens are just polite greetings among nobles, accepting powerful artifacts carries massive political weight. By offering these treasures to their supposed faction leader, it sends a clear signal that they are ready to join his side. He credits Duchess Alia for this masterstroke, and she warmly welcomes Marquis Mardanio. Now, they are officially united under the same banner. She is thrilled they share a common goal and asks how the other nobles responded. The Marquis confirms that everyone accepted instantly. He is highly impressed, noting that Duchess Alia rarely takes action, yet she personally came down to handpick these key individuals. She strategically drafted the right letters, essentially guiding them through a rite of passage using high-class bribery. Even though the rumors are spreading like wildfire, this is how the political game is played. The Marquis wants to seize this perfect opportunity, and Duchess Alia is ready to act decisively. By the fourth day of the banquet, Alan's pile of free loot keeps growing. Everyone is treating him like royalty because of the hilarious misunderstanding linking him to Alia and Zenonia. He happily decides to take the free stuff for now, planning to grab the goods and make a quick run for it. Evan suddenly arrives with a message that leaves the Count completely shaken. Apparently, an outer god has descended in the far north, throwing the region of Caliban into absolute chaos. According to ancient texts, researchers speculate that strange amethysts are connected to these cosmic entities. Coincidentally, the key person our hero needs to find is in a village just north of the Ashelon Kingdom. Alan immediately declares that they must head straight for Caliban. Evan is confused by this sudden trip north, but Alan promises to explain everything on the road. They pack up and leave immediately. Alan really did not expect things to escalate this fast, and the connection between the 5 cardinal sins and the outer gods could be catastrophic. There is no way to predict which outer god will arrive or when a divine descent will trigger. Because of this ticking clock, he needs to gather more intelligence and act with absolute speed. The timeline is moving way too quickly. Out of the hundreds of possible game routes he remembers, the worst ending is starting to unfold, one where the entire alliance of kingdoms will completely collapse. The world will fall into ruin, as mortal kingdoms fight pointless wars on land corrupted by alien magic. If that happens, his cozy, easy life goes down the drain. He needs a solid plan to survive this. Fortunately, after a divine descent, there is always a stabilization period of a few months before the entity fully awakens as a living god. During this window, the god can only project its power through heroic spirits, making them the perfect targets to strike first. He cannot guarantee it will work, but it is his only shot. He quickly drafts a letter, seals it, and wonders what kind of bribe a legendary future hero would actually want. A week later, the military commander receives the letter. Inside, the vice commander reports that their scheduled march to the north is being pushed back by 2 weeks. Arriving in Pakram, a village north of the Ashelon Kingdom, Alan did not think he would locate his target so quickly. But then again, the main playable character of this game has an incredibly distinctive look. He looks exactly like his game art, proving a main character will always stand out. Alan approaches the kid and asks for his name. The boy introduces himself as Elebon. Yep, no matter how much this world changes, the protagonist is still the protagonist. Since this kid is destined to become incredibly strong and famous, Alan praises his bright personality and hands him a heavy pouch of gold. Evan then pulls out several high-grade mana potions, piling on the gifts. Dumping all this treasure on a random kid might seem wild, but it is the ultimate early game investment. He tells the boy that he is destined for greatness, so he needs to grow strong quickly to face the dark times ahead. Realizing he forgot his manners, our hero introduces himself as Count Alan Padio. The young hero thanks him endlessly, promising to never forget this kindness. Alan does not recall Elebon being this cheerful in the original dark fantasy story. He honestly never expected the future savior of the world to be such an optimistic kid. Evan asks if they should stay and actually talk to the kid, but with the world ending, Alan has no time for bonding. Instead, he basically just set the main character on auto-farm. Evan comments that the kid possesses insane talent, noting his dense, swirling mana. Even though his clothes are ragged, he seems to be wearing hidden, high-tier artifacts. Alan can feel the raw energy, a classic sign of a hero, right before their grand adventure begins. While the game timeline is changing, he is confident the kid will succeed, and Alan just needs to focus on securing his own easy life. Elebon is one of those rare, genuinely kind souls in a brutal dark fantasy setting. Feeling completely relaxed, Alan casually asks Evan how the gods are doing and if trouble is headed their way. He avoided that orphanage for years out of pure fear. But now, he is hunting down the sins themselves. 10 days later, in Caliban's grand capital of Sirdan, Count Palacio and a very exhausted Evan finally arrive at the North Gate. If their detour-filled trip was not such a mess, they might actually look majestic. They had to constantly bounce around, preparing for a crazy war against literal outer gods. Looking at their gifts, they honestly wonder if a god would even care. Either way, their turn at the gate is up next, meaning it is time for a mandatory identity check. Count Palacio is just glad the line is moving fast. But of course, a minor annoyance pops up to ruin the vibe. The guards suddenly order their carriage to pull over, prompting a very confused why from our guys. Even with his papers cleared, some arrogant guy doubts his title. Enter Varane, the star pupil of Fiola, the kingdom's fourth sword. He struts over to confront them, forcing Count Palacio to ask why on earth he brought an entire squad of armed knights. Veron ignores the question and demands to know why the Count brought soldiers instead. Well, turns out a mutual buddy back in Asteria sent word that the Count owed him a little favor. Count Palacio instantly guesses the culprit is Carmine. Veron nods, claiming the Count totally humiliated his friend. So, Carmine begged him to hunt the Count down right here in Caliban to teach him a lesson. Apparently, Carmine wanted to harvest more abyssal bodies to level up, and since he owed this guy, he promised to show. The Count just sighs. Carmine picked a fight, lost miserably, and now he is sending his friends to do the dirty work. Veron boldly tells Alan to hand over everything in the carriage if he wants to keep his head. Since he is just doing his buddy a solid, he figures he has absolutely nothing to lose here. Alan realizes this guy is just some small fry noble from Asteria who has zero real power in Caliban. Veron honestly thinks that even if things get messy, his powerful master will just sweep it under the rug. But as Veron charges at Count Palacio, someone grabs him by the throat. It is Evan, pinning him from behind and asking how he dares to lay a hand on his master. Veron clearly forgot that the Count literally defeated the legendary Kurga of the snowfields. Kurga was a beast known as the Swordless. But stopping Veron from attacking Alan is actually the legendary Master Knight, Deos Malion, their terrifying backer. Deos glares at the guards, warning them that if anyone moves, he will make them suffer. The Count is relieved to see his powerhouse friend, though Deos is secretly annoyed he cannot just delete Veron right here. Instead, Deos just starts absolutely pummeling the guy, earning an appreciative nod from Evan. He is furious that some random punk tried to touch his benefactor. Sure, Count Palacio sponsored him back in the day, but seeing him now is a bit overwhelming. The kid grew up remarkably well, turning into a towering, upright powerhouse, but maybe a little too intense for a casual reunion. Maybe he acts this way because the Count was a father figure to him, or maybe he is just extremely sweet. Still, Alan finds Deos Malion's level of devotion a tiny bit excessive. Ironically, Deos happens to be one of the 5 great sins they need. He locks eyes with Alan and basically chooses him as his personal master. Elsewhere, Delman, the third sword of Caliburn and leader of the Crimson Flame Knights, raises his victory banner. He smugly tells the defeated chief, Kulkan, that his entire clan has been wiped out. Celebrating this massive win, Delman orders his troops to head back to base. With such a massive victory under his belt, he refuses to let anyone overshadow his newly earned rank as a Master Knight, even if he had to use some dirty, underhanded tricks to get it done. Usually, Caliburn and the barbarians fight with strict honor, but Delman shamelessly baited Kulkan into an isolated trap with a small infiltration squad. Thanks to that deception, he slaughtered the entire clan and humiliated one of the 8 great chiefs. Still, he wonders why the Count was the one who got to finish off Kurga, since Delman desperately needed that kill. To make matters worse, Kulkan's body vanished during the chaos, probably dragged away by his fellow barbarians. Even if he somehow survived the blade, the lethal poison should have finished him off. Regardless, his glory is secured once he reports this conquest back home. But as he returns to the advanced base, things take a sudden, terrifying turn. A figure immediately lunges at him. It is Kulkan, who should be dead, standing proud and furious. He roars that Delman desecrated their sacred, honorable duel with dirty tricks. Delman is terrified this beast can normally slice through hundreds of men with a single swing, but as he senses a dark, corrupt aura, he realizes this is not just Kulkan anymore. A sinister voice echoes from within the beast. The voice mockingly asks if it is his own fault for actually trusting the concept of honor on a battlefield. It tells Delman he has reached the peak of human strength, meaning this is his final chance. The possessed Kulkan challenges him to a final, proper duel. Delman and his knights ignite their flaming swords in panic, but the entity just laughs, calling Delman a dishonorable mortal who does not deserve a warrior's death. With a simple flick of the monster's fingers, the knights gasp in pain as their flesh begins to rot. He charges in barehanded, tearing them apart one by one with strikes so brutal they literally explode on impact. He grabs Delman, unleashing pure agony. The entity declares that those who are denied a peaceful death will join his undead army. He welcomes them all to his personal, bloody Colosseum. He reveals his true identity as Vuros, the god of all barbarians and the father of duels, here to personally give them a fitting, violent end. He demands they prove they are not savages in this final clash. Meanwhile, back in the capital, Deos Malion is politely guiding Alan and Evan, surprisingly keeping his head bowed the entire time. In this kingdom, Deos Malion's reputation is legendary. He is the guy who beat up the second prince for harassing his sister and got away with absolutely zero punishment. He never bows to anyone except the king himself, so seeing him show such respect to a foreign count leaves onlookers completely speechless. Realizing how incredibly important Count Palacio must be, They watch as Deus invites them into a ridiculously flashy carriage. Evan tells Alan to go ahead while he follows behind in their normal carriage. They soon arrive at Deus's estate, which is a massive mansion packed with servants and luxury. To show proper respect, Alan decides to bypass the small talk and get straight to the point. He tells Deus that he came all this way to ask for a huge favor. Hearing it as a humble request rather than a demand makes Deus incredibly happy, though Alan finds his bubbly reaction a bit weird. As they sit down, Alan realizes he is being treated like the true master of the house. He is being pampered like royalty. Alan gets down to business, acknowledging the heavy duties Deus carries, and asks if he will accompany him on a dangerous journey north. Without a second thought, Deus happily agrees. Conveniently, he was already planning a northern expedition, which is why he jumped at the chance to help his favorite benefactor. But now comes the really tough part. Alan needs to borrow the legendary madman's ring from the royal treasury. Meanwhile, at the palace, a knight reports back to the vice commander. During an escort mission, they discovered someone visiting the brother of a little girl named Selly. Plus, Deus ordered his troops to postpone their northern trip for 2 weeks, all because his beloved benefactor was arriving. He knew this ahead of time thanks to a letter. Now, Count Palacio's sudden arrival catches Selly completely off guard. Back in the room, Alan officially requests the Ring of Radiance. He knows it is a ridiculous ask that will put Deus in massive debt to the royal family, but the artifact is crucial for his plans. Right as Deus is about to blindly agree, Evan bursts in, breaking the heavy tension. To keep things light, Alan decides it is the perfect time to shower Deus with gifts, letting Evan pile them high in his room. The tense mood instantly softens thanks to these hand-picked treasures. Highly touched, Deus says he will open them later in private, feeling it would be incredibly disrespectful to unwrap them in front of his master. Seeing how deeply the young master respects him, Alan gently brings up the ring request one more time. Without a single shred of hesitation, Deus promises to fetch the royal artifact immediately. Deus explains that the ring is locked deep in the Caliburn treasury, which usually takes a full week to retrieve. But if the king makes things difficult, he is completely ready to slash through 50 guards just to snatch it for Alan. The young master asks if they should set off right away, looking dead serious about the massacre. Alan realizes he needs to recover as fast as possible, silently finding this crazy devotion a bit much. Just then, Sylvie appears, and Alan immediately recognizes her. The two of them are close friends, but in the game, Alan vividly remembers watching a brutal cutscene of her death. Meeting her in person, Alan notices she is practically a carbon copy of her brother, but Deus quickly steps in to shield her, denying that they are even friends. It is clear that losing his family left Deus incredibly clingy. Deus glares at Alan, warning him to stay far away from his little sister. Meanwhile, Sylvie realizes that if her terrifying brother is behaving so respectfully, Alan must be the one who saved her life. Sylvie goes to speak with Alan, who honestly admits he only ordered her rescue because if she had died, her brother would have transformed into a mindless, bloodthirsty killing machine. The siblings offer their sincere gratitude to Alan, who knows deep down he did not do this out of pure kindness. Still, getting some genuine appreciation feels pretty good. Alan stays with the Malia family and gets his hands on the ring. Astounded, he asks how Deus retrieved it so fast, only to hear that Deus threw a massive tantrum at the royal palace. When the prince refused, Deus straight up slapped him across the face. Talk about service. 3 days later, Alan joins the knights on an expedition to the frozen north. 2 weeks later, grim reports arrive from the northern border of Caliburn, detailing horrific casualties caused by the arrival of an outer god. The higher-ups are planning a full retreat, yielding the territory to barbarians. But some officers refuse to back down. They argue that the wounded soldiers stand absolutely zero chance against the barbarians without the kingdom's legendary first blade, until a sudden, sharp clap silences the entire room. Enter Fiola, Caliburn's fourth blade and commander of the Order of Perseverance. She demands they reconsider, especially with the outer gods sowing absolute chaos right at their doorstep. On the eastern flank, Delman, the third blade, has already perished, while Kurana, the second blade, is severely wounded. Deus warns everyone that these horrific threats are closing in on them fast. A corrupted aura of pure, malevolent mana is heading straight for them. It is so freezing and sinister that only awakened warriors can perceive it, sending shivers down their spines and making retreat look pretty tempting. But then they spot Alan casually using his magic to roast sweet potatoes. Soon, they get back to discussing barbarian rituals and saving humanity. Deus believes this is the territory of Kirana, the second blade. Meanwhile, the blue-haired vice-master of the magic tower advises them to keep a close eye on the situation. When she turns to dismiss Alan, she completely freezes in shock. She has no idea how he got here. Alan simply mentions that the rumors are true, and her special medicine is totally out of stock. Since she is busy, she promises to brew it later. Alan acts slightly disappointed, which makes her blush with embarrassment. She nervously mentions that finances are tight, so his payment will be delayed. In fact, she says a single coin is more than enough, and Alon is not about to decline her generosity. As she smiles warmly, her subordinates are absolutely losing their minds. Their boss just scammed herself out of hundreds of gold coins. She must have gone completely insane. She immediately rushes off to brew the mixture, serving it up without a word. The Magic Tower mages realize she holds deep, unquestionable respect for Count Alon. Back inside his tent, our main character suddenly senses a terrifyingly powerful, evil energy approaching. Deos screams that they are under attack, rallying the troops. They are getting utterly slaughtered until the vice commander unleashes her shard technique, trapping the monsters in an ice web before blowing them to pieces. Gazing out at the horizon, Deos locks eyes with a far greater nightmare. Embodying sheer, suffocating despair, the incarnated outer god warns them not to insult the sins of those who lost their honor. He takes a direct sword strike to the chest, but he does not even flinch. The lightning-fast blade fails to leave so much as a scratch on him. With a brutal counter, he crushes the knight who dared strike him, declaring she is unworthy of an honorable death. In mere seconds, the legendary Fiola is slaughtered, leaving everyone paralyzed with shock. That is when Alon steps forward, facing Ulthultus, the grand god of duels. Citing the ancient oath, he challenges the deity to a sacred Babylonian duel to honor their blood promise. Ulthultus is surprised that a mortal actually remembers the oath. Still, he keeps slaughtering nearby knights, using their blood to construct a massive colosseum. He welcomes the noble, declaring no one shall interrupt. Honoring the Great Pact, Ulthultus officially accepts the Babylonian duel. But Alon is sweating bullets. The sheer, suffocating pressure is unreal, and he realizes he severely underestimated how close this god was to fully manifesting. As an outer god approaches incarnation, their strength spikes to rival the cardinal sins. Honestly, if Alon had not drank his potion of excellence beforehand, he would have fainted right then and there. This is his final shot before the god becomes completely unstoppable. That is why he initiated this turn-based Babylonian duel. Under the first rule, the challenged party gets to strike first. Ulthultus immediately brings down an insanely devastating blow, genuinely wondering why his tiny mortal opponent is standing completely still in the face of absolute annihilation. Well, rule number 2 states the defender cannot move during the opponent's turn. Ulthultus is highly impressed by Alon's honor, seeing that he is not even attempting to dodge the strike. Finally, the third rule states that turns only swap after the defender survives the onslaught. Now, it is the defender's turn, which means Alon has to act. But against a god, a basic defense is totally useless. He immediately activates immobilization, condensation, reinforcement, and deepening. He is completely willing to exhaust his entire mana reserve just to survive this single, apocalyptic impact. The god strike explodes with a terrifying ocean of mana, shaking the very earth. As the dust settles, everyone gasps. Alon is still standing, saved by the special ring and his potion. That Promethean potion is designed to instantly alleviate even the most excruciating pain. If Alon had not swallowed it, he would be a corpse. Luckily, his crazy plan to use these special artifacts worked. He cannot fully heal his shattered body instantly, but thanks to that supreme potion, he is still able to move. This satisfies the exact conditions to trigger his absolute frenzy state. Activating his binding spell, it is finally his turn to attack. Fighting this god truly is like playing a high-stakes, turn-based video game. In the game, this god's unstoppable movements were strictly bound by the duel's rules, which is precisely why Alon dragged him into this contract. Thanks to the god's honor, the duel began. Armed with his pendant of reincarnation and supreme potions, Alon survived that first apocalyptic impact. This was crucial, as the madman's ring only activates when he is literally at death's door. Clinging to life, the restriction is met, and the ring activates. Since the proud god considers this duel sacred, he will neither defend nor try to interrupt. In the original game, taking that first blow and boosting his power would waste valuable time. But out here in reality, there is no annoying time limit, letting him unleash hell without any worries. Activating the first restriction, his magic unleashes a wave of absolute, bone-chilling cold that physically twists the laws of reality, paving the way for his next spell. Under the second restriction, casting magic while clinging to life bends reality once more, focus condensing his elemental rays to extreme levels. Now, he prepares to unleash this world-shattering annihilation magic directly at a literal god. He unlocks the ultimate tier of silence magic. Now, for the fourth and final restriction, firing this devastating spell directly at Ulthultus, the grand god of duels, completely shatters reality itself. The annihilating rays slam into the outer god, erupting in a blinding explosion. Alan hopes this first strike will be enough to vaporize the beast, But cosmic horrors do not simply die from losing a chunk of their body. Even with a gaping hole where his heart used to be, the monster stands, praising Alan's strength while declaring that his ultimate blow has failed. Alan drains his entire reservoir of mana but still fails to destroy the god, who boasts of holding an ancient class and will. Suddenly, hellfire wraps around Uterus. The deity smiles, calling it a splendid duel, as his body begins to dissolve. The god warns Alan to watch out for the black and the blue. Acknowledging his defeat, he leaves behind a gift of divine authority, promising to carry the secret hand signs and ancient mysteries of the long-lost creator. When the false kings break their chains to crawl back into the world, Alan must summon him by his true name, Uterus, and discard the lies of his old titles. The wicked is the name he must call, and with that final whisper, the god vanishes. Left in the silence, the expedition scrambles to gather their fallen and prepare for the return to Caliber. The vice commander of the magic tower assumes Alan is only a second circle mage. He quickly corrects her. He is actually third circle before asking about the black and blue the god spoke of. Panicked, she stammers that she has no idea what that means, too terrified to even look Alan in the eye before fleeing. Alan sighs, feeling like a total villain just for trying to be nice. Alan wonders why the cosmic god chose to vanish right after his attack failed. His thoughts halt as he spots a familiar belt lying inside the carriage. It is the Belt of the Forgotten, a game item obtained by defeating Taurus that doubles your attack power. For the first time, he spots a hidden inscription inside, hinting at secrets waiting in Kahara. Deos complains that the wizard dared to leave without saying a proper goodbye, casually asking if he should just execute her. Alan notes with concern that Deos Macallion is getting wilder by the day. 2 weeks after these chaotic events, they arrive in Kiraton, the grand capital of Caliber. Deos reports their victory to the king, ending the expedition, and Alan receives a mountain of legendary royal gifts. Alan spent his entire fortune just to survive, but he has no regrets. He is baffled when Deos asks if he can ever match his strength, considering Deos is the youngest Master Knight in history. Even before the ancient gods fuse with the 5 sins and descend, children with unique traits are ridiculously overpowered. Deos is a sword genius who will reach the absolute peak in no time. So, Alan gives him the classic mentor advice: you can do anything with hard work. But deep down, he is incredibly jealous of the kid's god-tier natural talent. Deos asks why a powerful noble would ask him for favors instead of just commanding him. Alan simply smiles and replies that nobody barks orders at their own family. Hearing that he is considered family leaves Deos completely speechless. Alan wonders if the boy thinks there is some dark, hidden motive behind his patronage, even though he spent that massive fortune out of pure, honest goodwill. Now Alan truly understands why parenting is described as a thankless job. The boy followed him to repay a debt, but somehow ended up receiving even more blessings. Fidgeting in the awkward silence, Deos wishes he possessed Alan's incredible magical talent. His mind keeps replaying the moment Alan called him family, unable to believe his luck. Returning to his mansion after 3 long months, Alan is greeted by a terrifying mountain of paperwork. He literally backs out of the room, pretending he is lost, before giving up and taking a week off to recover and dream of a peaceful life. Yet, the vacation is anything but relaxing. He cannot stop worrying about the rising plagues, the blue entity, and the god of chaos. Desperate to solve the mysteries of the ritual gestures Taurus left behind, the god of chaos is a forgotten name Taurus discarded, much like the Eastern deities. Alan had never seen a divine being just evaporate into thin air. If the god did not win, why did he vanish so peacefully? He fears other gods might emerge, though they are still less troublesome than the 5 cardinal sins. He desperately wants to visit Kahara, but has absolutely no idea where it is. Good thing he wrote down every detail about the original game. Since explorers have not found the city yet, Alan worries about messing up the timeline. His butler, Evan, notes the room is freezing from the cold magic leaking as Alan's research progresses. Evan then mentions that an ancient hidden city was just uncovered in Kelowna. Meanwhile, the Sins hold their brief 10-minute biannual meeting through a glowing crystal ball. Deos usually stays dead silent during these meetings, but this time, he shares his epic experience with the group. He starts recounting the battle against Uterus, rambling on for 50 minutes. Building up to the climax, Deos tells them that the only person capable of predicting that ultimate strike was the Great Moon. He describes how incredible it was to witness the Great Moon preparing his ultimate spell. Utia knows their leader is on a completely different level. 2 hours later, Deos finally finishes his massive tale. The meeting ends up lasting over 3 hours, a record caused entirely by Deos. Back in his room, Alan is greeted by Evan with a mountain of gifts, which are actually rare artifacts from the Deep Labyrinth. Yet, Alan has no idea who any of these sender nobles are. The attached letters are incredibly respectful, all thanks to his connection with a certain young Master Knight. As a former corporate slave, Alan knows the golden rule is to always accept free stuff. But over the next week, the expensive packages just keep piling up. Count Palacio finds it incredible what doors open just by raising a master knight, thinking Alan is suddenly the best son ever. He is happy to ignore their past silence as long as the treasures keep coming. A month passes, and the gifts still do not stop, making Alan seriously consider sending them back out of pure embarrassment. But as summer begins and the packages slow down, we cut to the capital of the Asteria kingdom. Alan arrives at the Grand Assembly, but for the first time in his life, he is running late. He walks as fast as humanly possible, dying of absolute embarrassment. Surprisingly, the other nobles all wait to follow behind Alan, making him realize he was actually on time. In the Grand Hall, the royalists sit on the left, while the aristocrats take the right. He grabs a seat in the back, but the crowd immediately follows and stares at him. All eyes lock onto Alan. The nobles only waited for him because nobody wanted the front row, dreading the awkward tension near the faction leaders. The assembly officially begins, announcing that a new political faction called Kalpa has officially gained voting rights, with Count Palacio named as their grand president. Alan is quite literally the only person in the room who had absolutely no idea this was happening. Looking at the two women nearby, he remembers the alliance he formed between Zenonia and Althea. They named their group Kalpa and put him in charge. He is now the leader of a brand new, terrifyingly powerful faction, a development he definitely did not plan for. As he tries to draft a normal response as their representative, he panics inside, wanting absolutely nothing to do with being an evil faction boss. Since he remains speechlessly silent, they take it as approval and immediately start congratulating him. Alan becomes the absolute star of the night. As the celebratory banquet begins, the two ladies approach, asking if he is enjoying the party. Duchess Althea and Countess Zenonia are the very women he saved years ago, and he never expected this insane butterfly effect. They are absolutely thrilled to repay him for saving their lives in the past. After chatting with them, Alan realizes they misconstrued his old advice and letters to Zenonia as a mastermind plan to build this new political powerhouse. He is officially their supreme leader now, but Alan swears on his life he never told them to do any of this. Alan wondered why these letters were so confusing. Then it hit him, it was all just a massive misunderstanding. Honestly, people lurking in the shadows have the weirdest logic. Though, Althea definitely doesn't think it is a misunderstanding. He did shower them with gifts, but he is still terrified of their reactions. Their in-game personalities were completely toxic, after all. His plan is simple: lay low in this role for a bit, then retire. Plus, he has already received way too many gifts. He knows absolutely nothing about politics and has no idea where to start. Still, he claims he will start by cleaning up the underworld, then quickly slips away before they ask embarrassing questions he cannot answer. Once alone, Alan asks Evan if he sent the letter, and Evan simply says yes. So Alan tells them to head straight for Colonia and never look back. Little did they know, scaring our hero away was actually part of Zenonia's grand master plan. He actually took total control of his own underworld territory ages ago. Now, his crew is eager to unify the entire criminal network, and they are moving fast. They are dying to see what Alan Palacio will do next, and honestly, so are we. They are plotting something incredibly dangerous when suddenly, a shady assassin with an eye patch and a dagger spots our hero's carriage. Even his leader warned him not to pick fights with overpowered enemies, regardless of the payout. But he is convinced his master would understand once he explains the mission to eliminate Alan. Down south in the Ashudalan kingdom, inside Duke Kalen's mansion, the assassin arrives with a familiar contact. The killer claims he has a direct line to the Seeker. Meet the agents, a deadly assassin guild from the Federation Kingdom, boasting master-level swordsmanship. They do not tolerate pests on their missions, so they quickly butcher the nearby guards. Duke Kalan admits the killer is just as strong as rumored, ordering him to assassinate Count Alan Palacio. There is no saying no to this request. It comes from the tyrant of Ashudalan himself, and the rewards are absolutely massive. But the assassin wonders if Lord Carmine can truly afford the price. He demanded 4 magic cubes known as abyss entities, which are incredibly rare, even compared to typical orbs. These abyss entities are priceless treasures that Duke Kalan leaks onto the black market. Unlike abyss orbs that merely boost physical strength, these legendary cubes grant unique, godlike powers. They sell for fortune-level prices, and the assassin knows using them will make him unstoppable. This sheer hunger for power is what makes the agents elite, so he gladly accepts the hit. Carmine mutters that Alan Palacio will never enjoy peace again after disrespecting him so shamelessly. So the assassin meets with Duke Kalan, the high noble of Ashudalan and a dominant underworld lord. He asks if this hit is truly safe, remembering that despite the high bounty, his leader warned them never to oppose the powerful House of Cal. Duke Kalan simply shrugs, giving the killer free rein. He even asks if he should send his regards to the guild leader, which the assassin welcomes. Meanwhile, the Seeker asks another underworld boss why he cannot exert any influence over Asteria. He explains that the Cal faction, led by Count Alan Palacio, has simply grown too powerful to touch. This cautious speaker is Chukro, another major underworld figure in the kingdom. Duke Kalan agrees, admitting the Cal faction has made it highly inconvenient for him to move openly. Armed with his newly acquired Abyss entity, the assassin sneaks toward Alan's carriage, whispering that he holds no personal grudge, he is purely in it for the relic. But watch this, he lunges, and his arm is violently ripped off. Then, a massive, crushing strike slams him from above. One of the legendary Sin Girls confronts him. No more moving, she warns. With a raised finger, she utterly obliterates him. The fool who dared target Count Alan Palacio is erased. As their journey continues, the heat becomes absolutely unbearable, and 5 days quickly pass. Evan asks if he wants to squeeze in some magic practice, but Alan declines, since a single slip-up out here could trigger an absolute catastrophe. Either way, joining this caravan was a brilliant move. They are completely clueless about crossing this giant desert, and they are traveling alongside Lion Alice. She is a rank 4 mage and the daughter of the Red Magic Tower Master. Alan bickers with her, desperately wishing for some peace and quiet. Evan quietly points out the massive pile of ice crystals hanging from her carriage. He warns Alan that her father is a certified madman, meaning it is probably best to stay far away from her. Suddenly, an ambush strikes, and ninja-like bandits begin hacking people down. One rogue grabs the red-haired lion hostage, demanding everyone shut up and listen to his terms. Cooperate in absolute silence, he warns, or face the absolute worst. The survivors recognize the symbol of the infamous Bloody Sand Bandits, who are specifically targeting Lion. Their scouts heard the Tower Master's daughter was traveling here, and they managed to track her down. Paralyzed by old trauma, Lion cannot even breathe as she tries to ask for help. Suddenly, a biting chill sweeps over her, letting her gasp for air as Count Alan Palacio steps forward using his unique Snowlands magic. Due to her high-profile status, the Tower Master's daughter constantly faced dangerous provocations, leaving her deeply traumatized. That is why, despite being a powerful rank 4 mage, she remains hypersensitive to energy. She previously assumed he barely had enough mana to reach rank 2. However, knowing he is the benefactor of the Nightmare, she now suspects Alan plays a crucial role in the upcoming fight against the Outer God. She honestly thought he was weak, unable to hide her contempt for Count Alan. Yet, the moment she watches him closely, she realizes he is actually casting combined enchantments and linking 3 distinct elements. Pulling off combined enchantments requires weaving multiple highly complex chants together. With every single spell added, the success rate drops off a massive cliff. As the lead bandit lunges at Alan, our hero casually unleashes a freezing spell. Once the thug is locked in ice, Alan shatters him completely with a devastating demolition strike. Seeing their boss instantly obliterated, the bandits lose all their courage. The remaining thugs scream for a full retreat and flee, leaving Lion to realize that the rumors about Alan are entirely real. Soon, Alan is treated to fine wine and food as a thank you. It seems his effort to reduce those magic restriction penalties was an incredibly smart move. The custom Snowlands spell he developed during his vacation seamlessly blends space, ice, and maintenance magic. He can instantly transform any battlefield into a freezing polar zone, though using it under severe stress still drains his overall mana. Furthermore, casting magic directly against the supreme god of outer duels carries heavy costs. Fortunately, this tactical setup allows him to limit his permanent, lifelong penalties to just 3. Sure, fusing 3 separate chants just to maintain a spell for a single minute is terribly inefficient. Even so, the combination worked like a charm, and with his special belt, his power spiked while solving his penalty issues. Lion actually drops to her knees to apologize to our hero, begging to discuss high-level magic with him. Even though Alan was ready to keep bickering earlier, he graciously accepts her apology. Their magical discussion keeps them thoroughly entertained all the way to Colonia. Although Alan relies on complex enchantments to bend the rules of magic, he still picks up some incredibly valuable tips from her. Once they arrive in Colonia, she eagerly invites him to the upcoming magic conference. Alan points out that he does not belong to any magic tower and lacks an invitation, so she instantly offers him a spot in her own red magic tower. He accepts. They will meet at the conference. Meanwhile, Evan secures their luggage and sets up their meeting spot. Suddenly, a group of thugs is violently slammed against a nearby wall as explosive lightning and magic erupt. Alan turns around only to see one of the legendary 5 great sins leaping forward to embrace him, happily calling him her godfather. Seal Rang is absolutely thrilled to see him, complaining about how this city is crawling with annoying bandits. She promises to butcher every last one of these scoundrels to keep her godfather safe. This terrifying girl is Colonia's Golden Lightning. His letter had her eagerly awaiting this moment. Now, onlookers watch in absolute shock, wondering who on earth gets treated so warmly by the deadly golden lightning. Seal Rang proudly introduces her Beastman Guild. As they enter the fortress, the crowd warmly greets their chief. Her deputy, Ralga, assures her that everything was peaceful while she was away, warmly welcoming Alan as their guest of honor. She manages her crew like a real family, but Seal Rang points out that he and Utia are next in line since they are not blood relatives. Apparently they barely talk, yet he is still ranked third, which completely baffles Alan. While Alan wonders how to bring up his actual business, Evan drops a pile of rare gifts to sell. Seeing this, Seal Rang gets incredibly hyped and promises to help our hero. Even though he is not family, he is her savior, so she eagerly agrees to help since he reunited her tribe. Right then, she spots a relic that perfectly matches the mythical golden mane essence. Everyone eagerly agrees to help, and Alan is secretly proud of his talent for raising future villains. To help him recover from the trip, she easily scoops him up to rest. She asks if the journey was a massive drag because of the desert sand, and Evan admits the return trip looks just as awful thanks to the blazing heat and endless ambushes. Alan explains how the brutal, bloody sand bandits constantly target traveling merchants. Knowing their group cannot afford another dangerous encounter, Seal Rang quietly cooks up a secret plan to rescue her benefactor. Storming straight into the main hideout of the bloody sand bandits, Seal Rang unleashes her magical gauntlet, ruthlessly slaughtering anyone foolish enough to mess with Alan. She fires lightning bolts and lands crushing hits that completely vaporize the mob. Finally, she confronts Kalman's younger brother, who warns her that they are backed by a powerful Baba Yaga and she should back off. Since he already targeted Alan and she has zero intention of letting his gang cause future trouble, she decides to absolutely obliterate him on the spot. Triggering a massive blast, she instantly ends Kalman's brother. The next morning, Alan wakes up to find the entire bandit syndicate has been completely wiped out. She casually claims they will not cause any more trouble, hoping to get some praise from him. Knowing these bandits had hundreds of high-tier fighters, Alan is amazed by her Baba Yaga strength, realizing she is destined to become the legendary, overpowered Sin of Pride. Soon they visit the famous Colosseum in Colony, a brutal arena fueled by the blood and madness of gladiators. An intense clash erupts between Kalman and the arena veteran, both top-ranking Baba Yagas of Colony. Kalman easily claims victory, laughing at the spectators who actually believed a massive mob could ever hope to defeat a true legend. Ralga reports that the bandits were wiped out by Seal Rang. Kalman is already aware and knows his own brother was involved, though it turns out to be a calculated rumor he spread to control his sibling. Colin agrees to proceed, knowing they cannot pull off this scheme during an official Baba Yaga match. Meanwhile, Kalman is annoyed by Alan, who is stirring up trouble across Colony. Plans to use his brother's demise as the perfect cover story to enact revenge and eliminate Alan Palacio. With Ralga arriving to assist, the conspiracy is fully set in motion. He presents a dark gift from their father, claiming the boy will gain absolute power using dark underworld artifacts. Together, they plan to completely take over the criminal empire and target the throne. They test the artifact to see how long he can survive its dark corruption. 2 days later, escorted by the guild, Alan's group departs for the ancient ruins of Carrara. Upon arriving at the ruins, they divide their forces. Alan and Evan walk down a dark path with a single lantern, marveling at the colossal, ancient structures of Carrara. A mysterious voice calls out to Alan, whispering clearly for him to come closer. Leaving Evan behind, our hero ascends into the chamber alone. The entity reveals that simply hearing its voice means he meets the baseline requirements. Alan almost calls the shadow by the wrong title, but quickly corrects himself, addressing the entity by its true name, the Perverse. The Perverse admits he is worth the gamble, but his current class prevents it from helping him. Since class is how the world measures a person, Alan must prepare, as an outer god is about to descend. Only after surviving that encounter can they actually continue their conversation. Impressed that someone better than the usual magic copycats has arrived, the entity reveals a secret magic is the absolute law woven into the world by the Archmage. True magic is the pure projection of one's inner nature, where every phrase triggers a powerful principle. What he summons with a phrase must run wild based on that principle. He must speak its true name for the magic to become absolute. Alan has absolutely no idea what a principle is, and the Perverse chuckles, knowing theory won't make sense. Instead, it decides to teach him true magic through actual practice. Outside, Seal Rang grows worried that Alan is taking too long. Suddenly, Kalman appears, easily throwing one of her guards aside. Shocked by his boldness, she demands to know how he dares start trouble outside the arena. Kalman reveals he knows she destroyed the bandits and killed his brother. Vowing revenge, he charges at her, while Seal Rang fires powerful spells, warning him never to lay a hand on her family. Their weapons clash as she fights to protect her tribe. However, Kalman anticipated this, fueling her rage and hatred even further. Using his foresight, Kalman triggers an ambush, landing a harsh blow on her back. Ralga steps forward as the traitor, mocking her predictable nature. Seol Rang, deeply devoted to her tribe, refuses to believe his betrayal. After all, her people had always praised her as a wonderful chief, and their happiness was the only thing she ever cared about. Longing for the days she spent with her lost Golden Mane tribe, she hoped to rebuild that warmth after leaving the orphanage. She wanted revenge against the black dragon that destroyed her home and sought to find her survivors. While the royal descendants of the Golden Mane tribe normally value their kin above all else, some are simply rotten, which is precisely why Ralga stabbed her in the back. Kalman barks at Ralga to stop playing around and finish her off. Summoning her remaining strength, Seol Rang throws a lightning-infused punch with her gauntlet. Kalman mocks her for trying to escape like a coward. He uses the power of the Dark Abyss to multiply his strength and counter her strike. She lunges with another fist, but as their attacks collide, Ralga slashes at her with a cursed void blade. Flipping back, she barely evades the strike, leaving him wondering how long she can survive against their dark abyssal magic. Ralga and Kalman launch a relentless joint assault, but Seol Rang agilely dodges. Vaulting off a nearby boulder, she delivers a powerful, lightning-fueled kick that lands squarely on target. Ralga shrugs off the attack, but Kalman is sent crashing into the stone wall. Right then, Alon casually steps out of the cavern, as if nothing is wrong. Seeing the newcomer, the villain decides it is the perfect moment to capture Alon, aiming to use him as a hostage before executing him. Ralga keeps Seol Rang busy with rapid strikes. Suddenly, the poison from his earlier stab wound takes hold, causing her to lose control of her body. Ralga sneers, asking if she genuinely believed they joined her guild just to play family. He reveals they only gathered because of her Golden Mane heritage and that overpowered gauntlet. He laughs at her for showing off the weapon, yet despite their greedy motives, the bonds they built felt completely genuine to her. She truly believed they were a real family, but Ralga mocks her pathetic delusion, revealing that the entire guild secretly hated her and planned this betrayal. Ralga declares her power belongs to someone more worthy, but as he raises his dark energy blade, an unexpected savior strikes Kalman down, sending him crashing to the ground. Alan Patio delivers a clean sword strike, leaving Halga completely frozen in shock. Staring back at our hero, Alan realizes there is a bizarre dark thread of magical energy oozing from an entity of the abyss. These abyssal entities show up inside that mysterious black cube. Its bizarre description sparked wild theories. Pointing out that the guildmates of Sarang turned their backs on her, Alan patches up his friend. He knows they will recover soon and reassures her that not everyone is a traitor. Even though she is devastated by this betrayal, she wipes her tears and presses on. She stands strong because her family is still waiting for her. Charging forward, she strikes with her gauntlet, while Alan channels his last remaining ice spell, amplifying the magic into a massive, freezing maelstrom. Utterus notes that knowing individual words is not enough if you cannot construct the phrases. While words alter the laws of reality, the phrases act as the actual key to reaching them. Even after losing their great legacy, they mastered impossible shortcuts. Now, our hero invokes the power of the snowy mountain, unleashing an incredibly devastating spell. He utters the phrase "Pen of the Blind" to release the frost. In his mind, the voice of Utis whispers of an ancient ice spear, its true name lost to foolish mages. Our hero calls forth a halberd painted with ice crystals. Gigantic ice crystals hurtle straight toward Kalman and Helga. Seeing the massive strike coming, Helga prepares himself, knowing he has to block this head-on. Wielding the ice crystal halberd, Alan launches it straight at his foe. It is a devastating blow, but Helga reacts just in time, taking the hit to his chest while Sarang steps in to help deflect the force. A colossal ice barrier erupts, taking Evan completely by surprise as sharp shards impale the enemies. Even as he is pierced, Helga spits out his final words about needing to destroy Alan, somehow managing to break free from the ice. If he can just seize the essence, he can rebuild everything. So Helga lunges at our hero, wielding the dark sword of the abyss. Alan gets run through and coughs up blood. This absolutely enrages Seol, who delivers a savage kick to the attacker. Honestly, Alan was barely hurt. The battle was over. The blade only grazed him, and coughing up blood was just from depleted mana. He had no idea exhaustion could cause internal damage, reminding him of what Kalen said about the father of Chu-Chu. He is just glad it is over, though facing an opponent who absorbed an abyssal entity means he must stay alert. Recalling the third restriction used against a deity who dared to twist the laws of reality, he knows his own power only grows stronger whenever he stands against a god. Alan wonders if he should cheer Seol up instead of letting things get depressing. She is devastated that her master got hit, blaming herself for his injuries, but Alan gently reminds her that he trusted her to block it. She tearfully asks why he risked his life to protect her. To him, It was pure reflex after raising her for years. Though the tribe was once her only family, she confesses she wants to be part of the family of Alan now. It is that classic, emotional moment of an adoptive dad finally getting the recognition he deserved for years. He is genuinely touched, but then she suggests they should get married. Talk about moving way too fast. Both of them freeze in shock while news of the atrocities of Kalman spreads everywhere. People are stunned by the cowardice of Baba Yaga. Meanwhile, she keeps badgering Alan to marry her, leaving him completely lost. Sure, he was a little flattered at first because she is adorable, but this is the 19th time she has asked, and he strictly views her as family. She insists she will make her savior the happiest man alive if they wed. But honestly, our hero would be perfectly content with some sweet potatoes and a quiet, peaceful life. He wants absolutely no part of this drama. Alan figures she will eventually drop it if he just ignores the proposals. After saying their goodbyes, the guild restructures to fit his ideals. With her relatives furious over the betrayal of Helga, she realizes just gathering her tribe is not enough for true happiness. She wants a family built on trust, even in danger. She starts being more careful, forming a guard to protect him. Only then can they be happy. Later, Evan tells him there are no other suspects besides the loyal men of Helga. Having raised her so carefully, Alan wants to keep her safe from any harm. He is warned to keep an eye out for other outer gods in the future, though he only knows basic lore about these deities and has no idea what lies ahead. With questions piling up, he recalls the Shadow saying a search for the Eastern Tower was recorded long ago. This is his very first time deciphering the stone tablet using his accumulated knowledge. However, just like in the game, the deities are only mentioned metaphorically, leaving him with absolutely no clues to connect the dots. He wonders why the concept is reversed, since true gods here refer to the 5 cardinal sins. It is highly confusing that this tablet equates the cardinal sins with outer gods, and the mystery keeps bugging him. To make things wilder, word arrives that Deos has defeated the legendary first sword, Reinhardt. Alan never expected the boy to grow this insanely strong in just 6 months, showing off some truly absurd talent. Meanwhile, Reyna joins the ruling council of Lania, and Ronan unifies 5 archipelagos to become the ultimate pirate king. Ronan boasts a massive bounty, basically becoming a pirate lord. At the same time, Utia is declaring war against a rival. Believe it or not, Seol boldly announced she intends to marry him, leaving everyone speechless and filling Utia with pure rage. Utia sighs at the usual exaggerations of Sarong, but Seol insists she will become his devoted wife. Utia fires back, saying that is impossible since they are merely his shadows. Seol tries to argue, but Utia shuts her down, declaring they will only remain by his side. Seol argues that the opinion of the Great Moon is what matters. The white-haired girl snaps back, saying he would never choose her. When she previously asked if he hated her, he only said it was not like that. Now she is blowing it way out of proportion, acting as if they are engaged. When the real story is told, Deos mentions seeing something incredible a year ago. Deos describes his calm, hellish demeanor, unable to measure his strength yet watching him defeat Tourist. Seol declares he is absolutely magnificent, promising to get stronger so she can finally marry him. 2 hours later, the chaotic meeting is still going, and Deos attempts to lay down an ultimatum. Utia cuts in to declare that the girl has absolutely no right to marry him. As their bickering continues, the official meeting notes of the Blue Moon show that asking Deos about the Great Moon is strictly forbidden. Second, anyone getting involved between Utia and the Great Moon is banned, as it only makes her act incredibly childish, a completely new and surprising look for her. Deep within a dark alley in the capital of Asteria, a secret alliance forms to overthrow the Crown faction. The aristocratic leader, Marquis Phil Boyd, points out that the very presence of Alan is highly disturbing. Duke Herringgrave, the leader of the Realist faction, suggests they can seize control of the Holy Rosary Kingdom, the literal heart of their religion, by using the Reform Letter. This special letter allows them to target anyone suspected of heresy across national borders. However, for it to carry any real weight, it requires the official backing of several powerful cardinals. It acts as a ruthless excuse, though the greedy cardinals are demanding half of the bribe. They agree to the terms, wrapping up the discussion as their dark conspiracy quietly swings into motion. They plan to leave the final steps to the cardinals and toast to their newly unified faction. Even with 8 elite subordinates serving under the saint and the pope, everyone is swamped. This is actually only the second time they have managed to meet. He greets Cardinal Sergios and asks to borrow his name on a reform letter to Count Palacio. He suggests it is a win-win deal that could also build a perfect heresy case against Alan. But plot twist, he is actually talking to Cardinal Utia, who is basically Alan Palacio's adoptive daughter. With a dark smile, she asks if he really wants her name on a letter to ruin the Count. The priest plays it cool, saying they will focus on Cardinal Viandra's suspicious death instead. He expects her to cooperate so he can pocket the massive bribe and live like a king. Too bad for him, because Utia instantly blasts him into the dirt. She is absolutely furious that this idiot would dare try to take down the one man she worships above all else. She unleashes her terrifying magic, and everyone nearby can feel the oppressive energy. She cold-bloodedly tells him that screaming is useless because nobody is coming to save him. The torture begins, draining him dry, but she does not stop. Her magic twists, torturing him even deeper. He begs and screams for mercy, but his cries fall on deaf ears. Soon, he is on his knees, pleading for a quick death, but she is not that kind. Trying to hurt Alan comes with a price, she warns. Shadowy black tentacles erupt from her body as she starts ripping out his very soul, demanding he confess his sins if he wants forgiveness. A month after his return from the desert, the stage is set. Alan is finally ready to pack up and attend the Grand Magic Conference. As a county lord and faction leader, he decides to look into the mysterious entities of the Abyss. He even snags an official certificate, proving his high rank and securing a massive salary. The payout is way higher than anything he ever dreamed of. He was running low on cash anyway, so he is highly motivated to do a great job and get richer. He honestly has no clue how this faction prints so much money. Hey, a modern guy needs cash to survive, so he basically sold his soul to the highest bidder. Truly, capitalism is the greatest magic of all. Arriving at the Vidium Marquis venue, he hears about all the legendary figures attending, but then he runs right into Zenonia and Alia, the two masterminds of his faction, and casually asks how they have been. Now stuck hanging out with these scary underworld bosses, he is trapped in another classic misunderstanding. To make things worse, Evan mentions that the realist faction leader got a reform letter and fled to the Holy Kingdom. Our hero is secretly relieved because he really did not want to deal with that guy. But suddenly, a shaking old man approaches him, crying that he lost something and begging Alan to spare his life. The entire room freezes in shock as Phil Boyd, the proud leader of the aristocrats, bows deeply to him. Unlike the chaotic underworld, politics here is entirely driven by public standing and justification. In this world, bowing your head means completely surrendering your authority. Zenonia is totally amazed by Alan's power, especially since he is standing there looking incredibly cool, like he planned the whole thing. As it turns out, this man received a mysterious package a few days ago. It looked just like a reform letter, and the magic orb inside held a 5-second message. The recording played the cardinal's voice, ordering him to read the holy letter and look at the moon. The cardinal was screaming in absolute agony, crying that they had made a mistake, showing Duke Ringgrave had suffered the same fate. Then the orb shattered, leaving a chilling letter warning that he was next. The guy only wanted to ruin the Count's political career and has no idea why things spiraled out of control. Normally, a reform letter just ruins your political life, but your physical safety is fine since you are not a heretic. Yet Duke Ringgrave, who had zero ties to heresy, was brutally taken down anyway. Because of the signature mark, he is convinced that Alan is pulling the strings and that his own life is on the line. After all, he just wanted to retire and live in peace. So he begs on his knees, promising to quit politics forever if Alan just lets him go. This leaves our hero completely baffled, wondering what crazy plot the two girls cooked up and if they are truly the masterminds behind Asteria. In reality, they had absolutely nothing to do with it and actually thought the Count was the genius mastermind. Just like that, the suspicion that Alia and Zenonia used Count Palacio for their own gain is cleared up. 3 days after the assembly kicks off, Alan heads east to attend the highly anticipated magic conference. News reaches them that Maris Philboyd received a reform letter and fled. Our hero tells Evan that he never sent any letter, and that he actually planned on being quite lenient and forgiving. But let's be honest, he just wanted to escape that incredibly awkward situation. Next, they make their way to Lania, the legendary city of labyrinths, which is packed with endless treasures to explore. As the territory of the 5 great guilds, Alan is already a legend here for defeating 1,000 men solo. Plus, the guild leaders themselves are known to be absolute superhumans. The Iron Blood Guild is led by Aldrich, and they are currently hunting a high-profile monster on the 20th floor. Having received a massive advance payment, they find themselves in a suspicious zone. It feels like a trap, but since Aldrich has already cleared over 50 floors, he thinks escaping will be a breeze. Heading down to the 20th floor of the labyrinth, a girl points out a strange figure from behind. It looks just like a common goblin, which should be the weakest mob in the entire dungeon, but something is off. His clothing looks like it is from the Far East, and this green-skinned, white-haired fellow turns around, complaining that they are making way too much noise. With a simple flick of his finger, he completely wipes out the entire party. Shocked by the instant carnage, the faction leader charges forward, launching a spinning aerial strike with his massive axe. Instead of struggle, the green monster just lifts his finger again, vaporizing him instantly. The arrogant king of the Hungry Spectres has officially begun his climb to the surface world. Meanwhile, Alan heads to a colossal tower that puts the Eiffel Tower to shame, meeting a very familiar face. The conference does not start until tomorrow, so Alan decides to visit the library first. Lion kindly shows him the way, but our hero has to head in alone. She mentions that the Green Magic Tower is presenting a new theory on friendly duels. Unfortunately, a heated argument with the arrogant Vice Master of the Blue Magic Tower left Lion feeling pretty down. The Blue Tower Vice Master is extremely full of herself and keeps trash-talking. She boasts that even if 20 rank 5 mages showed up, they would not stand a single chance against her. She glares at Lion, mocking her as a weak novice who got absolutely crushed last year. But the second she spots our hero standing there, her smug attitude completely vanishes, and she bows in respect. Penia politely mentions it has been 6 months since they last met, asking how he is doing. She does not dare to speak casually, staying completely tense. The surrounding mages are stunned, convinced they are hallucinating. Alan tells her that mages really should just get along, prompting Penia to instantly apologize to everyone. As she leaves, he sighs, realizing his misunderstood reputation gets worse every single time they meet. Lion remarks that even that crazy lady knows how to behave politely when he is around. Our hero knows she has a bit of a temper, but he does not really think she is completely insane. Just then, a knight walks up and asks if Lion came to see him. Failing to recognize our hero, Lion introduces him as Count Palacio. The knight, who has already heard the dark rumors, introduces himself as Baru, son of the Purple Tower Master. Alan does not remember this guy from the original game at all. He casually tells Lion that she might actually grow to like him, and they politely bid the knight farewell. Lion warns him that the guy is a rank 4 mage who loves stealing other people's research to humiliate them. Alan realizes he must be a genius to reach rank 4 at such a young age, since each rank gap is like night and day. He points out the library on the 38th floor, and they agree to catch up later at the presentation. The following day, our hero makes his way up to the 38th floor, searching for 2 specific items. First, he needs to set the clock hands to exactly 12 o'clock. Next, he must find an untitled black book. The moment his fingers touch the worn cover, he discovers the hidden Ring of Radiance. He found the hidden compartment to finally grab the Ring of Radiance. But the very next day, right after the Academy presentations, Baru went ahead and challenged Count Alan Palacio to a duel out of absolutely nowhere. Alan figured this was all because of Lion. She felt totally exhausted from Baru constantly hitting on her and bringing up marriage. Baru actually approached him under the guise of offering friendly advice about some legendary mage. Honestly, the guy just wanted to step out of his father's shadow and gain clout, constantly bragging about fighting an outer god and surviving a Baba Yaga ambush. He saw that Alan's reputation was shooting through the roof, but brushed it off as pure hype that didn't show real magical talent. But checking the Count's ring, Baru noticed he was only rank 3. Believing Alan was a total fraud hiding behind cheap pride, Baru decided to use him as a stepping stone under the excuse of a friendly match. Alan was getting pretty tired of his nonsense, so he accepted. Seriously, some people look decent, but Baru's personality is a total train wreck. The rules ban any lethal magic, and the fight kicks off. Baru immediately whips out his wand to cast a purple spell, aiming to ruin Alan's status. But suddenly, his feet feel heavy, frozen solid by Alan's magic. Alan literally freezes the entire arena in a flash, activating the Ring of Radiance. Using the legendary Glory of the Snowlands technique, he ends the fight before it even starts. The Green Tower Master is utterly shocked when Penia actually apologizes to his defeated student. With so many wild rumors flying around about the mysterious Count, the tower leader decides he needs to see Alan for himself. Alan's mana pool seems quite small, and he doesn't look like a high-tier threat. In magic, pure knowledge is everything, especially when you are born with limited mana. Yet, defying all doubts, Alan is on another level. The crowd watches him perfectly pull off a complex triple combination spell, something even a rank 5 master wouldn't dare try. They wonder how he pulled it off, noting the relic on his finger and another on his wrist. Using these artifacts, he smoothly executes a rotation technique with ice magic. Baru finds himself trapped with absolutely nowhere to run. It is a famous destruction spell from the Violet Tower called Milan. The ice suddenly erupts in tight bursts, completely freezing his body. Naturally, the winner is Alan Palacio. The stunned Green Tower Master immediately steps forward to ask him how he managed to construct such an advanced spell. When the leader mentions catalysts from old texts, Alan points out their logic is outdated. Everyone is stunned he used a lost method, and since he claims to be only rank 3, they think he is incredibly humble. Slipping away into the quiet hallway, Alan realizes just how useful that Black Eye ability from the book turned out to be. It acts as an upgraded memory vault to store spells. It boosts the power of any spell cast. Usually, Using the glory of the snowlands on frozen terrain bypasses restrictions, but eats up 3 of his 5 available spell slots. But combined with the black box, the ring gives a massive boost. And let me tell you, this combo is absolutely broken, letting him use all 5 slots as he pleases. The spell instantly freezes the surrounding air the exact moment it is activated. He recalls the wicked entity mentioning magic keys. Once you understand the secret phrases, you can actually rewrite the laws of magic rather than just shifting elemental properties. Back then, Alan only used this enchantment as a basic mana booster. After some rest, he heads to the 38th floor for the evening conference, arriving right on time. Keeping his cool when a voice speaks from the void, he successfully solves a massive riddle. This is the legendary figure who struck absolute terror and awe into the game world, the eternal assassin known as the Chalice of the Primordial. Henkel was the first human to reach rank 8 since the ancient gods vanished. She is a terrifying archmage, and one wrong word means instant death. In the game, players literally called her the Retry Witch. To get her loot, you had to pick the perfect dialogue choices. One wrong click, and you died on the spot. If you brought the wrong items, she would vaporize you instantly, earning her the nickname of the Dirty Milk Witch. Alan feels a suffocating pressure radiating off her, quietly preparing his defenses. But then, she spots something lingering right behind him. A dark presence looms, revealing a glowing red eye. As Henkel stands there completely speechless, Alan realizes she is much shorter in real life than her terrifying in-game sprite. Spooked out of her mind, she quickly hands him a gift and vanishes into thin air. Well, Alan is not about to complain about getting legendary loot without lifting a finger. The morning after the duel, he goes to the presentations. Alan figures that studying with Lion is way better than going solo. His precise control, combined with her brilliant magical talent, makes them a perfect team. Still, she is always baffled that he is supposedly only rank 3. Given how rapidly he is progressing, Alan decides it is time to start using rank 4 spells. By the 4th day, news breaks that an outer god has manifested inside the Lania Labyrinth, altering its layout. According to the scouts, it probably arrived a week ago. Alan instructs Evan to prepare a message so they can set off immediately. Pinea is caught off guard by his sudden departure, but wishes him a safe journey as they head out. Even though she came to wave goodbye, she did not seem all that sad to see him go. Leaving the strangely cheerful Pinea behind, they spend a few days traveling by carriage. Evan mentions that Rini is rising to the top at lightning speed. It is a universal truth that money talks, and successful magic appraisers hold massive sway around here. While Alan finds the situation slightly awkward, he still needs to ask her a favor. He tells the guard there is an emergency, and to inform Rennie that Count Palacio has arrived. The guard gets annoyed, complaining about pushy VIPs. Honestly, some people have no manners. He demands 3,000 gold coins for instant entry. That is literally the price of a whole mansion, meaning a normal meeting would take 10 months. Just then, Levold Greystone, the spoiled son of the local lord, struts in and tosses a bag of gold to buy his way inside. But before he can, Rini steps out and tells them to halt. Without hesitating, she punches the annoying rich kid right in the face. She announces she was waiting for her godfather and bows deeply to Alan, shocking her staff who have never seen her act this way. She coldly dismisses the wealthy brat trying to hit on her. He storms off, warning her that he has major connections with the high councils and that she will definitely regret this. Alan worries he might have brought trouble to her doorstep, but she easily brushes it off. Although the local lord is known to obsessively spoil his son, Rini is extremely reliable and already read Alan's letter. Putting the drama aside, the two catch up warmly. While the other orphans call Alan their savior, he wonders why she settled on Godfather. To her, it just felt much more respectful. Alan views Rini as a fiercely independent daughter. He asks for a major favor, needing some political pull to secure a spot on the elite task force sent to suppress the outer god. He tells her not to push herself if the recent incident makes things difficult. Rini asks if he is still stressed about the Lord's spoiled son, but Alan was honestly just looking out for her safety. She promises to handle everything and urges him to rest up after his long journey. Both Evan and Alan can see she has grown into a very structured and reliable adult. Knowing Rini is backing him up is a massive weight off his shoulders, though dealing with the stubborn suppression squad is still a pain. But mid-thought, the exhausted Count suddenly falls fast asleep. Waking up the next morning, Rini tells him everything is sorted out. He just needs to attend the upcoming strategy meeting, and as for Levold Greystone, she smoothly took care of him without leaving a trace. Let's face it, Levold was a complete parasite, and Lania is way better off without him. Still, his sudden demise catches Alan off guard. After all, the game's subquests always showed Levold deep in horrific chimera experiments and massacres, but offing him is basically like taking out a royal. Renee noticed Alan's discomfort and simply eliminated the guy to solve the problem, telling him not to sweat the 3 councils. Even if she genuinely looks up to him as her godfather, Alan can't help but feel she went way too far with all this. He's a massive wild card right now, leaving him wondering how she even fought off those mercenaries. When he asks if her attitude might cause trouble, Alan notices a hint of sadness. She just wanted to clean up his loose ends. It's clear they operate on entirely different wavelengths. Alan realizes she isn't actually remorseful about the hit. She's just incredibly embarrassed to show her ruthless side in front of her godfather. He gently asks her to avoid anything that might jeopardize his peaceful life. She nods in agreement, taking it as her sacred duty without a single complaint. While he's there, she offers to show him the Lurker's Eye, an item she's been using to collect marks effortlessly. Alan knows these marks are crucial for boosting the power of black-marked artifacts. Usually, it's just a standard support artifact meant to evaluate low-mana items. It's the sole reason this place is so famous, and why she's treating him with such unexpected kindness. Once you hit 400, the collection rate drops so hard it could take years to finish. Alan still has no clue what she's actually gathering, but she wraps up her report right then and there. Stepping into the meeting room, Alan joins the Outer Deity Suppression Unit. There, he meets the formidable leader of the Fourth Guild among the great guilds of ancient trackers. This guy, Mayon, immediately scoffs at the rumors and takes an instant dislike to Alan. Next up is Maverick, the leader of the Earth Nomad Guild, which ranks third among the Big Five. Then there's Reman, the leader of the second-ranked Arcadia Guild, and sitting at the absolute top is Argonia, the powerhouse leader of the Kalamadra Guild, the ultimate force among the five. Alan knows these mercenaries only respect raw power and are naturally hostile. To earn their respect, he has to make a move right now. He unleashes a wave of freezing cold, driven by two specific goals. First, he must gather and freeze the targets, since conventional force won't even scratch an outer deity. Second, he absolutely needs these powerhouse mercenaries to fall in line and follow his strategy. So, he puts on a little show, mixing impressive spells with bold words. Naturally, the guild leaders completely misinterpret his flex, assuming this arrogant noble wants to start a brawl. Alan points out they asked for it, but they think he's crossing the line. Swords are drawn in an instant, leaving Alan wondering if he just messed up. He cancels his magic, though he had a solid reason to provoke them. This whole tense standoff perfectly mirrors a special quest from the original game. If he can just get Argonia to recognize his worth, they can skip the bloodshed entirely. He wraps up his spell, and Argonia actually steps in. She orders her guildmates to stand down, admitting they underestimated him first. Alan asks when they descend into the labyrinth, and she replies it's in 2 days, postponing the rest of the meeting for tomorrow. Alan walks out of there completely sweating bullets from the deadly threats. He makes a mental note to never pull a stunt that risky ever again. The blonde asks why Argonia let that smug noble walk away, but another leader corrects her. Argonia actually saved Maverick's life, because if Alan's attack had connected, Maverick would be history, and he won't want his mind, warning her that when the black eye shows in the night sky, she must never look at it, and if possible, rip out his memories. A great dragon gave this exact warning to Argonia, instructing her to remember it forever. Hundreds of years later, she is certain this is the exact threat her parent warned her about. Just who is this Alan? And what was that bizarre eye behind him? The next morning, Alan is losing sleep over how the meeting will go. To his utter shock, they agree to his plan without a single complaint, wrapping up the session with unanimous support. Hinan does absolutely nothing, while Min keeps completely quiet. Alan realizes his meta-knowledge from the game has turned out to be a massive lifesaver once again. Honestly, our hero would never venture down here by himself. Suddenly, a beastman named Meow asks if he dislikes her kind, though he quickly plays it down. She straight up asks if he wants to make a half-cat baby with her, casually claiming they've finally reached a point where they understand each other. Talk about forward. Alan is completely dumbfounded by her wild proposition, but he can't deny she's a highly capable teammate. She respects his raw power, and her tribe values strength above all else. Still, he politely declines making any feline babies. Renee calls her incredibly vulgar for speaking to her godfather that way, and casually offers to silence her permanently. Alan stops her, saying it's fine since beastmen just think on a different level. By the second day in the labyrinth, the constant battles lead them right into a frustrating dead end. Alan starts to sweat. They are taking way too long, and they've only reached the 4th floor. In the game, progress is easy if you meet the right conditions, with the 31st floor cleared by beating a boss. But right now, they've wasted half a day just looking for the next entrance. The sheer scale of this place is mind-boggling. Fortunately, Argonia opens a portal to the 5th floor. The group steps through into an open-air zone, knowing that every 5th floor acts as a safe haven. Back in the game, this was the ultimate save point. After some quick rest and prep, they need to brace themselves. The outer deity is scheduled to appear on the 12th floor. They still have some time, but Maverick gets annoyed. asking what's so funny about a man panting. As they push forward, they are suddenly ambushed by that same deadly goblin who slaughtered the previous party. Panic sets in as this monstrous figure obliterates several Vanguard members in a single breath. He demands to know who is looking at him without permission, flicking his finger to unleash a lethal cutting spell. Alan throws up an ice shield to save Maverick, yelling at him to get a grip before trying to freeze the attacker. The demon instantly notices, finding Alan's magic highly intriguing. Alan recognizes him instantly. It's Kais, from the role-playing game. He started out as a nobody, but by chasing forbidden knowledge and breaking every law, he achieved divinity and became the king of hungry demons. Hearing Alan call his name actually puts the demon in a playful mood. He wasn't supposed to show up for another 3 days, but Kais declares he's feeling generous and might just show some mercy. He tells them to turn back if they want to live, but Alan orders his squad to prepare for a brutal clash. Unlike their fight with Turibus, these mercenaries are ready, and the demon's incarnation isn't fully complete. Kais laughs if they're eager to drink poison, he'll gladly serve it, descending from above with his terrifying cutting magic. Blast tears the cavern apart, but the elite mercenaries survive the impact and charge forward. Kais smiles, noting that one of them wields a rather fascinating sword of dissipation. This anti-deity magic actually works on outer gods who haven't fully materialized. Seeing they came prepared, the squad presses the advantage and keeps the pressure on, but Kais easily dances around their blades while the rest of the team sweeps the surrounding goblins. Time is running out, they need to end this right now if they plan to survive. Alan summons his signature freezing magic, but this time he channels the legendary Pen of the Blind, unleashing a massive, high-velocity ice stake straight from his fingertips. Ryan casts a rapid spell from her grimoire, summoning heavy iron chains from glowing portals. Kais casually avoids the crushing links, only for Alan to follow up with a crystalline ice halberd aimed right at his chest. Alan knows this blow has to land. Instead, Kais simply crosses his fingers in an X, completely shattering the magic. The monster scoffs, calling Alan a mere insect before effortlessly slicing his crystalline ice halberd clean in half. Alan is left in utter disbelief. Kais starts talking trash, calling humans utterly clueless and promising to drag them down to his level. Sure, he is imperfect, but this is still fun. Chance release, then tremble, sending massive black tentacles straight at the mercenaries. To top it off, he yells, "Expand," inflating his dark magic to wipe out a chunk of the human crowd in an instant. Next, he triggers some unknown principle, letting loose a blinding flash that scoops a giant crater out of the dirt. While the mercenaries are standing there utterly confused, he just flicks his finger to rain down unavoidable attacks from above. Meowin scrambles to rescue a friend, while the big bad has massive expectations for how Alan is going to entertain him. Alan is completely blindsided by Kais wielding phases and chance. Talk about a reality check, they are getting absolutely outclassed in raw power, battlefield intel, and strategic planning. They are basically losing on every single front. Desperate, Alan taps into the renown of a misty mountain, pushing his magic to the absolute limit. Activating his ring and chanting the phrase of resolution, he tops it off with the word revolution, expanding his spell into a massive ring of ice. Alan spams the ice magic at high speed. Seeing it work, he shouts for Ryan to help, refusing to let the villain belittle their resolve. Alan is absolutely fuming because Kais is treating them like a cat playing with a mouse, laughing at their desperation. All Alan can think about is how to survive those invisible slashing attacks. Burning through mana, Alan's own hands freeze over. He chugs 5 mana potions, triggering nasty side effects, and barks at Ryan to strike with her chains as Kais closes in. She casts another enchantment using a book through the portals. Meanwhile, Alan pulls out the Pen of the Blind, chanting every phrase to bypass a penalty so he can rewrite reality with a brand new restriction. But rewriting reality hurts, and those side effects start hitting him hard. Remembering the Wicked One's advice to draw out everything, Alan plays his very last card. In this world, magic goes from a spoken phrase to a core principle. Finally, it manifests as your true nature, shaped by everything Alan has ever experienced. Could possibly go beyond a principle. Alan searches for clues and finds his answer in a mark. Truth and illusion share the same root. Once he cracks this, he gets the key. A mysterious voice from beyond echoes, belonging to someone we do not know yet. Alan follows the voice to find his true essence, leaving Kais deeply unsettled. Terrified, Kais unleashes another invisible slash, cutting through Ryan's chains. Alan lunges to shield her, taking a massive, agonizing gash right across his arm. The moment Bodazri's sign is complete, the spear morphs into a giant key. The massive ice crystal reshapes itself, slotting perfectly into the frozen structure and beginning to turn. Armed with his ice halberd and a magical artifact, Alan activates the spell. As the key turns, a massive glacier erupts, carving its way across the entire plain, Magic is a universal law defined by wizards, but bending to the architect's will through the law of the pen is basically hacking reality itself. Alan stares at the colossal glacier, thinking this is his ultimate self-expression, but Kais somehow shatters the entire frozen mountain anyway, unleashing a tier of magic that should be totally impossible for him. Still, Alan hits his mark. Kais is left weak and frozen solid. If he had fully manifested, blocking this would have been easy. Alan calls that a useless theory, and Kais actually agrees, admitting defeat before crumbling into dust. Having drained every drop of his power, Alan collapses, completely spent. Ryan tries to heal him, telling him he is safe. Alan wakes up with a splitting headache, finding himself alone at camp, too weak to even stand up. Luckily, nerve paralysis is curable. That is the price of chugging mana potions and getting severe poisoning. He could have permanently ruined his mana flow, so he is just glad to be breathing. Ryan is thrilled her godfather is finally awake after a whole day out cold. She lets him know that Meowen is healing fast from his wounds. Meanwhile, Argonia barely survived the blast, but walking away from it has her wondering if she is secretly part dragon. Ryan asks why he risked his life to save hers. When a sudden wave of pain hits him, Alan hides it behind a calm face. She argues that protecting her from Kais was highly inefficient, even for the sake of the lurker's eye. But Alan firmly sets her straight. He did not adopt these kids to use them as tools. Alan realizes these kids honestly think he adopted them to be a ruthless villain master. In reality, he just genuinely considers every single one of them his family. Saving her was natural, especially since she saved him first. Their bond is not about profit or exploitation, even though she thought she was just a tool made to fight the black pests. Finally, understanding Alan's genuine care, she feels incredibly happy. 5 days later, Alan can finally wiggle his limbs. When he asks if Argonia can move, she admits it is barely a twitch. It takes 3 more days to finally crawl out of the labyrinth. Back home, Evan gets furious, seeing how beat up his master is, scolding Alan for not taking him along. Evan assumed the guild leaders would keep everyone safe, yet they all returned half dead. Still, Alan knows that if Evan had tagged along, it would have totally derailed his game knowledge plans. As news of the unit's heroic victory spreads across the land, it is finally time to leave Merida. Riding in the carriage, Ryan asks Alan when his birthday is, so she can plan a gift. Alan casually tells Evan he is not that excited, since he already gets plenty of presents. But Evan insists it is different with the kids celebrating. He thinks she might send Alan a neat artifact, while Ryan is just happy to finally have a family. Since the Great Moon is basically their deity, their loyalty is absolute. To Alan, winning this fight just felt like another day at the office. Yet, he realizes he is finally understanding the true meaning of a word he once ignored: family. Being a godfather is no longer just a title, but their actual bond. Ryan knows she will drop everything the moment her godfather calls. Eager to surprise the man who welcomed her, she starts planning his birthday gift. In her mind, gifting him the Lord's castle seems like a decent start. Summer quickly fades into winter. Fully recovered from the mana poisoning, Alan spends his days catching up on mountains of boring paperwork. Evan brings a package from the Utia estate and a communication crystal. A girl calls with a report, revealing that Duke Utia is now bowing to Alan as his faction leader. He explains how they cleaned up the underworld just like he wanted. As of yesterday, the entire criminal network of the Asteria kingdom is firmly under their faction's control. She praises him for his genius plan to conquer the underworld. Alan is sweating, knowing he just said that offhandedly, and now it is real. Taking over a chaotic underworld with countless gangs should have been impossible, which is why Alan only mentioned it as a joke. But she explains it was easy since Alan already crushed the leaders of both noble factions. Alan is sure they did all the work, but okay. When she asks if they should overthrow the king next, a panicked Alan begs her to chill, ending the meeting. Just like that, he goes from Shadow Master to ruler of the underworld. Suddenly, an invitation to the royal ball arrives for Alan. Even the king himself gets involved, ordering updates on our guy and demanding he be invited to the royal ball. Talk about a nightmare for a dude who just wanted a lazy, carefree, noble life. Deep down on the 5th floor of the labyrinth, a mysterious figure is absolutely shocked our hero survived this long. They find it pretty hilarious and wonder if he will make it next time. Meanwhile, Utia is scratching his head, wondering if the queen summoned him over the Cal faction drama. Enter Asteria's 8th ruler, Xian Cretinia, the exclusive owner of the Golden Archives, an overpowered ability passed down the royal bloodline. This skill lets her inherit massive chunks of information, basically like game cheat codes to pass extreme power down to her heirs. No wonder the royals have absolute authority. Back in the original game, she briefly joins the player's party to fight the 5 cardinal sins, showing off some seriously broken skills. And now, she is stepping in to clean up the underworld. Xian Cretinia was a fan favorite, with players constantly making hilarious guardian dragon memes about her. Utia realistically hopes this royal crackdown might actually crush the annoying Cal faction once and for all. As long as he keeps the queen happy and plays his cards right, he can just stay on the sidelines. He is basically here to eat popcorn and watch the drama, so what could go wrong? He doesn't think anyone is foolish enough to challenge the crown. Cut to a shady bandit stepping on a dead guy in an eye mask, realizing their target inside the palace is already long gone. Suddenly, an angry, purple-haired noble demands they finish off the target immediately, even threatening to report them to the Assassin Guild's big boss. If Baldy doesn't sort this out, he is going to end up as the ultimate scapegoat. He spots an anti-decomposition spell left as a blatant warning, which is just ridiculously petty. If the guild leader finds out they ruined their perfect 100% success rate, heads will definitely roll. So those rumors about Count Alan being a major threat are completely true. Baldy needs answers fast, so he decides to pay a visit to a guy named Caliburn. Baldy sneaks up on him, but immediately gets spotted. Turns out his stealth skills are a bit rusty. Undeterred, he whips out a massive scythe, aiming it right at his neck and demanding info on Count Palacio. Life always comes first, even if the guy is his benefactor. But just as Baldy steps up to threaten God Melon, a sharp wire wraps tight around his throat. He looks up and sees a bunch of poor souls trapped in giant spiderwebs. Turns out, they are dealing with nasty cursed spirits. God Melon immediately realizes this bald guy is just another bad actor, and the wires tighten up, completely freezing his movements before he can strike God Melon. Now he is bleeding out, courtesy of a guy named Malian who controls the threads. Meanwhile, Utia is stuck in a meeting listening to pure insanity. I mean, Seo literally just proposed to him out of nowhere. Everyone notices Renee trying her absolute best to calm Seo down, which is incredibly rare. Then, Renee turns around and makes a direct proposal to Utia herself, right before they discuss reporting the mysterious lurking eye. She insists on delivering the report herself, making Utia ask if she is slacking off. But Renee just wants a good excuse to see our hero in person, and suddenly, everyone notices she has this massive, suspicious smile on her face. Just then, God Melon walks in covered head to toe in blood, casually apologizing for being late. But before they can even start, he drops a bombshell. A dangerous group called the Agents is targeting the Great Moon. There are 15 in total, but he already took out 3 of them, leaving 12 left. He has already tracked their locations, and the boys are ready to hunt them down. But Haddam suggests checking their strength and gathering intel to make a proper plan first. Too bad everyone else thinks he is a total traitor just for wanting to use his brain instead of blindly rushing in to fight. He just wanted to analyze the situation first. But under their intense, judgy stares, he backs down and tells them to go ahead and charge in first. Utia quickly gets the meeting back on track before things get out of hand. Haddam is deeply insulted by the traitor label. He would never betray them. They gave him a shot at power and revenge, so his loyalty is absolutely rock solid. Even so, he cannot help but think these guys are way too fanatical about the Great Moon. Meanwhile, back at the Asteria Royal Castle, our hero finally arrives and begins climbing the grand stairs. The leader of the Sao faction has grown so wildly popular that half the nobility is literally tailing him. He is definitely not the ignored outcast he used to be. Honestly, he absolutely hates this, because having a giant mob follow him makes it look like he is leading a rebellion against the queen. But hey, if they all get yelled at together, his plan to lay low might actually work even better. So Utia marches right in with his massive entourage of nobles trailing behind. The palace looks absolutely stunning, and the divide between the royalists and aristocrats is incredibly obvious. The other factions only tagged along because they are dying to see the Chaos faction get chewed out by the queen. Utia is perfectly fine with just bowing his head and taking the heat. He finally steps up to greet the ruler of Asteria. Queen Cretinia looks down and asks if he is Count Palladio. The rival factions lean in, eagerly waiting for him to get absolutely destroyed, but instead, she straight up promotes him to a Marquis right then and there.